wasn't going to make the time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome tonight, everybody. I'd like to introduce our new selectman, Mike Doyle.
Good to be back.
That's right. Little hiatus, but he's back. Mike and I got a chance to chat a little bit for a couple hours last week.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, so things are good, and welcome to the board.
Thank you very much.
Before I move on, I just want to say a couple of words about Chuck Fair. Some of the best fundamental advice about doing this job right when I was so green and so new at this, I got from Chuck. I'll always be thankful for that. Chuck was tough under fire. I watched him in some very difficult situations, and I always knew he'd be the first one here, and he'd be ready no matter how joyous or how tough the meeting would go. I always knew Chuck would be here and he'd be solid. So I'll always be grateful to Chuck for that. And you know, Chuck is the definition of a man. He is he's a stud. I just want to say in today's terminology. I really enjoyed my time with Chuck.
Throw the roads in.
Oh, and the roads.
Throw the roads.
Everyone enjoys the roads in Newbury, and I'm sure everyone's crossed the borders into some of our neighboring communities. And Chuck was such a driving force for a long time behind our road improvements, and that's a difference people can feel every day, and that's something else I learned from him. He didn't care about just moving forward. Chuck valued taking care of the things we have, and that's so important. So thank you, Chuck. All right. So I have signed the PR 19-21 for Ellen Jameson and the PR 19-22 for the Board of Selectmen and Ellen Jameson, and also the VW 19-21 Verizon Wireless Monthly iPad expense. Grants, gifts, and donations. We have some Council on Aging donations. 500 from Central Congregational Church, 14 Titcomb Street, Newburyport, Mass. And also a donation from John and Michelle Holtgraff from 11 Northern Boulevard, Newbury, Mass.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All right. And we also have, all those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I'm rolling along here. We get a long agenda. We also had a $300 donation from Barbara Rogers to the Newbury Town Library. And we have various passes from the Newbury Cultural Council, Georgetown Cultural Council, and Salisbury Cultural Council.
Motion to accept the donations.
Second.
All those in favor?
I could just say something.
Yes.
So the donations to the library, there are a couple of them. Some of them are free passes to some of our local museums. But there's an event on July 9th that'll take place at the library that's for children, and it's someone has a traveling makerspace, so kids can come build a Rube Goldberg-esque type machine. Should be a lot of fun. It sounds like a really neat event, so I just wanted to put that out there so that anyone watching the meeting knows about it. And it's supported by the Newbury Cultural Council, so it's a local event for our kids. I think everyone should take advantage of it. The museum passes also are always a great opportunity. So you get to the PBD Essex and I forget which other museum.
New England Aquarium.
New England Aquarium. So we have some great opportunities ahead of us.
Excellent.
Thank you to all the cultural councils.
Now from the Governor's Academy, Dr. Peter H. Quimby, Head of School, and Christopher Weichert, CFO. Oh, sorry. All those in favor accept the Barbara Rogers donation and various passes from the Newbury Cultural Council.
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, Chris Weichert, Peter Quimby,
All right.
from Governors.
We've been here before. I think you all know that we've made contributions to the town when we've been able to over the years, and when the matter of the building for the new police station came up, we said we wanted to make our contributions more regular and increase them. So we're just delighted with the relationship that we have with the town. Couldn't be more pleased with the work that the fire and safety folks do for us. I'm sorry that neither of the chiefs are here today for me to thank them publicly, but we wanted to make a contribution toward the support of the police station. So here's $30,000.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
So-
you.
Thank you all for the work you do.
very generous and very much appreciated. It means a lot to the people of the town. We're all coming together to rally around this project, and we all appreciate the history and the beauty of Governor's Academy. And just great to have you guys here as part of our town.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks again.
Just give it a couple weeks.
All right, yeah. You gonna be back for reading?
Okay. Yeah, a vote to accept the donation.
Yeah. So moved.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
That
Thanks
was a quick
again.
agreement. Okay, we don't have Bruce or Lenny yet, correct?
They're not here till 8.
Okay. We can get into some liquor licenses. First one, I'm gonna recuse myself from, one-day liquor license. Dan Clapp, DBA 1634 Meadery, Battle for Newbury at Spencer Pierce Little Farm, 5 Littles Lane, Saturday, June 8th, 2019, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Is there someone here from that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I can tell by the
Yeah,
way
do you
you were
wanna-
walking up.
You'll be on Channel 9, you wanna tell us about your event?
Yeah, my name's Dan Clapp, I'm the owner of 1634 Meadery, in Ipswich, and, there's a Minuteman event where all the, troops are coming from all over Massachusetts and all over New England, and, they're gonna put on battle scenes and do all sorts of stuff, and we're gonna, serve some period drink, mead, at the event. Mead is honey wine, and, we make that in Ipswich. We did it a couple years ago when they did another reenactment, and it went very well, so we're doing it again.
Excellent.
Awesome, Dan, what is, once again, honey wine? Can you expand that profile just a
So,
hair?
honey wine is, it's the oldest fermented beverage known. It's, basically, it's wine made with honey, so the sugar source and the fermentation,
Okay,
it comes from honey. So it's made just like a wine or a beer or
Cool.
cider, so
that's
you
great.
made with honey.
Thanks.
All right.
Good
So-
luck with it.
Do we have a motion?
I move.
Then second?
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you.
One-day liquor license, Governor's Academy, 1 Elm Street, Byfield Reunion, 2019, Friday, June 7th, 2019, from 6 to 10 p.m., and Saturday, June 8th, 2019, from 5:30 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have the request for public property use. Did we ever get back from Paramount?
It's been delayed.
All right, they,
Table.
yeah, the request for public property use from Paramount Studios on Scotland Road has been delayed till a later date because of their schedule got bumped back to later in the summers. That's how it was explained to me. So we have some appointments.
Now, are we gonna proceed with that now, or is it best to?
I think-
go and get the
I think they're gonna appear
Oh,
at a later meeting,
awesome.
give us a rundown.
Good, 'cause I was wondering how that would go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Appointment of Deidre Hidwall to the Council on Aging Board of Directors, 6/17/2019 to 6/30/2020. And again, pardon my
There's been
pronunciation. Yeah.
change in dates.
5/28/19.
Okay, 5/28/2019 to 6/30/2020.
Motion to appoint?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. We have some 2019 business license renewals.
We have another.
Yeah, well, another, that's a write-in.
Oh, yeah, Ross Lane. We have an appointment of Ross Lane as Emergency Communications Officer, 5/28/2019 to 6/30/2019.
Motion to appoint?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's it for appointments, correct? As far as-
Yes.
It's almost on here now.
Yes, then we're on to business licenses.
All right, 2019 business license renewals, Paula Grant, MSW, DBA Seascape Therapeutic Counseling and Consulting, 19 Central Street, general business.
Motion to grant license?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Michael and Shelby Hall, American Automotive, this is a new business license. American Automotive LLC, 61 Main Street, automotive repair.
Motion to grant license?
Second.
Any
I think they're
discussion?
here. You guys wanna talk
You guys
about
wanna
it?
plug the business?
Come on up.
And everyone in Newbury will see it on Channel 9. Can't hide under the hood of the car all day.
I'm a master technician, AAC with an L1 advanced certification, and looking to take over really Jimmy's business, which is All American Automotive. He's my mentor from Colonial Cadillac from years ago, and his back's giving him trouble.
Mhm.
He called me with a great opportunity to start our own business.
Super. And what types of vehicles do you service?
Anything. Primarily on regular automotive cars and trucks, but you know, I pretty much fix anything.
Right.
Do some little bit of welding, fabricating.
Good, there's absolutely a need around here, Lord.
Yeah, we're doing oil changes.
But super, it'd be a good addition to the town and keep that garage up and running.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
It's John.
Not see him. I think he's looking to do it on June 25th, not tonight.
Okay.
Alright. I think the next one, are you gonna go to wireless communication?
I was thinking about it.
That kind of falls to me, I think, right? And I gotta kind of ask to let everyone in on what I'm discussing.
This is to do with the wireless communication services
And the
overlay
bylaw
district
that we have in
bylaws.
place. I don't know about you guys, but behind Old Town Hill where I live, and Plum Island has very poor cell service. It's just the nature of where the cell towers are in town and probably the ability to get over Joe's Hill. So, what I'm asking Martha to maybe do and the planning board to do, I don't think that was a restricted bylaw, but the siting of cell towers was always in industrial and, business locations, right? Cause I started to read it again, you know.
Martha Taylor, town planner.
Yeah, when we first developed the bylaw in 2001, it was in what was then the industrial district and the commercial highway district along Route 1, which is now the business and light industrial district, and it was restricted. The board felt it was best at the time to restrict it to that area, so
Right.
that's where it is right now.
And I mean, there's been some discussion that the cell communication industry is gonna change with maybe repeaters on telephone poles, but some of the discussion and research that I've seen tells me that might not be for a while. So I discussed it a little bit with Martha, and what I was maybe thinking might be a good pathway for us is for, you know, and maybe we'll have to hire a consultant. I don't know if we have any funds to do that, Tracy, we do. I mean, we probably should push where a lot of people don't have landlines anymore, and they use their cell phones as their major part of their communication. I know my son does, I still have a landline, but for emergencies and all the other things that go on, you know, nowadays, I don't think parts of town should be shielded from good cell service. And it's not just Sprint that's me, because it's Verizon that's someone else, and it's another one that's another one.
T-Mobile doesn't work on Route 1.
So, say it again, Michael?
As soon as you get down on Route 1, past the bridge to go into the Governor Dummer,
Yeah.
right there it just dies. on
Well, there's a
T-Mobile.
lot of, I mean, there's a lot of dead zones, we'll never get them all,
Right.
but some of the major complaints seem to be Plum Island. Verizon had a proposal to put some sort of cell tower out there because they had so many complaints, right? That was on a, you know, they just withdrew it, so I mean, that's part of what was on our
Small cell.
table. So, anyway, Martha, I don't know if you have any suggestions, I'm kind of stabbing in the dark a little bit, but I think we need to think about how we could proceed under chapter 97 zoning to look at the needs, whether we try to find out if those needs are real and exist, or what we do next to maybe change some of the areas that we're gonna be able to site these cell towers.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the board and I talked about it earlier this year when we were proposing the changes that were made to the wireless. And decided that it would be a pretty big undertaking to actually look at revamping it totally, which is why we just focused on the kind of the legal aspects right now. But I think it would take a consultant to bring in, I mean, the technology is changing so fast. We are looking at small cell and 5G down the road. So to bring a consultant in to really guide us on what the appropriate path would be, and what the technology is, what the ramifications of all of that, I think would be the first step, and also get some guidance from town council, because she's probably aware of some bylaws that also are, more up to date than ours in terms of technology. So,
So it would probably still start with your board. We might have the ability to hire the consultant because it's kind of starting from up here. But, I mean, your board's gonna be more attuned to that part of zoning. So, I mean, is this something that you could take on and discuss and work in concert with the board of selectmen on?
yeah, I was gonna put it on the board's agenda for next Wednesday, June 5th, so that we can, at least kind of start the discussion, and maybe we can, talk with Tracy about how we might go about getting a consultant in. I think it would be too soon to try to do it for a fall.
If it takes a year to get this done, I'd like to get it done.
To do that.
Just so that no matter what, if something happens in the town, and it was because of something like this, at least we know we did our best so it didn't really occur. So at least we have the information we need.
Right, but there are no black holes out there for cell reception.
And you're not gonna get them all, but there's certainly, it seems to be a district of black holes kind of in that, quadrant that's behind
Right in the shadow.
Old Town Hill, the shadow of Old Town Hill. I mean, what are they doing? Are they picking up with Lewis's cell tower and it doesn't work? Where else is there a cell tower?
There's one, Scotland Road,
At the bus, where am I?
Golf course, is that one just outside there?
There is one at the golf course.
yeah.
So everything's in the way of Old Town Hill.
It doesn't even use my house that way.
Probably going the other way, so it's shielded, But anyway, I think to get an understanding of what's going on, first of all, in the industry, where the industry is going, and what we can do to alleviate that problem. Because Plum Island certainly is, making a lot of complaints that they're thinking of getting a Verizon tower down there. So,
I think, should we make a motion to hire a consultant or get some
I mean,
bids?
let what do you wanna do, Martha, cause it's gonna fall on you. We have no problem trying to go after the consultant, but the consultant won't have the idea of the mission or anything else that'll develop from the,
Right, I mean, I think it's start with the planning board, really,
Yeah.
because,
And
the
bring it
planning
back up
board will
to
be
us.
in charge of the zoning.
Okay.
Yep.
And, so I'll just pass on your request to them, we'll discuss it, and then we can work with Tracy to
Yep.
get the consultant on board and start the
Yep.
process.
and then maybe keep us totally posted and we can, figure out what's going on. 'Cause I think it's a need. And if we find out that repeaters are gonna be here, repeaters, I guess, as I understand it, in the industry are on the telephone poles and they're gonna transmit the signals and change the whole world. But I don't see them as around the corner. So I think cell towers are viable for a while.
But I think that's what a consultant can really advise us on, is, how quickly the technology is gonna be changing and how, how
But
best.
we already use repeaters for the fire.
Different.
So the technology is there, it's just a matter of.
It's just different. Well, it's gotta be what.
Different signals.
Right,
What the cell companies want to do.
right.
They're gonna take the cheapest way out.
Well, I'd like to see if part of that consultant gives us actually a map of what
They will.
what we have missing.
They
So
will.
that we
That's
see
part
where
of the
we-
concern. They gotta find out where
Yeah.
the lack of signal.
Right down by
And then we go through public hearing as we
Yep.
develop the zoning and all of
Yep.
that stuff, so.
Because some people really don't like cell towers and they consider them to be a health hazard. I mean, so, where do we go from there? So,
Okay, well, I will put it on the board's agenda.
Thank
for
you
next
so
week
much.
and start
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank you, Martha.
All right, town hall committee discussion.
So I've put together some language, I hope you all got a chance to read it. The primary purpose of this is to make sure that we don't, as we're ramping up on the police station, lose track of the fact that the town hall is either gonna need a major renovation or a complete rebuild. And so, my hope was to get some citizen input, to look at the information we have, the space over there. So I'll read the charge and then we can discuss it. The Town Hall Advisory Committee shall be composed of 5 members. It shall have a member of the Construction Committee and the Town Planner as members, and 3 members of the community at large. It shall base its work on a preliminary space needs assessment compiled by Context Architect, and will work with Context to flesh out the 2 possibilities. Its task is to advise the Selectmen on the benefit of tearing down or renovating the current Town Hall building. This recommendation is to be based on the idea that the future building must meet the current needs of Town Hall, have adequate ADA access, have sufficient parking, has space for document storage, have room for expansion for future needs, and resolve the dangerous intersection of Morgan Ave, High Road, and Parker Street. The committee will report its findings to the Selectmen 6 months after its members are seated. The Town Hall Advisory Committee shall hold no less than 3 public hearings after the beginning of the school year, 1 on the island, 1 in Fireman's Hall, and 1 in the library or Town Hall meeting room. Furthermore, it is the job of the committee to reach out to the community for input about what is important in the Town Hall structure and to begin generating support for the project. So, I think we should start moving this forward so that it doesn't fall off the radar, but I don't know if it's important to anybody else.
That is important. It's a nice project. I mean, we got a great stack in the police station put to bed, and we gotta start this. So, I think we should get this committee together as soon as possible.
Does this language make sense to everyone? Is there anything anyone thinks I'm missing?
Well, the only thing that I don't know if we need more further clarity, but it says furthermore, that it's the job of the committee to reach out to the community for input about what is important in a town hall structure and to begin generating support for the project. I don't know if we can ask them to begin generating support for a project that the Board of Selectmen hasn't voted on yet.
Well, I think Town Hall, getting out of the rented space and back into Town Hall is something that.
So I don't know if it's just a matter of semantics, but, and maybe to begin generating support, for the process or something, cause I don't want,
for the
my
process
fear,
of returning
my
to Town
fear
Hall.
is that, you know, that the advisory committee may come up with something, and that's their project, and that's the one they're gonna start getting support from, and it hasn't come back to the board. So, see what I mean? I don't know if that's possible, but.
One of the things I heard all about the police station over and over was we didn't communicate well. So if we start this now, and start communicating what the public wants and what they think, I think it's a win-win for the town.
Makes sense to me. I mean,
So what do you think about that language?
I'm fine with the way the motion reads, so really it's
Jeff, what do you
up to
think?
you guys.
You know, I think it's actually very well written. I mean, I don't think that it's incredibly debilitating to strike it right after structure. Because the committee's gonna be in constant contact, I think, with the board and the rest of the town and everything else, and in that actual process, they're gonna be actually generating either support or non-support. So it's a process
Yeah.
that's just the obviousness of having the committee and having it have 3 public meetings and having it, I mean, I didn't read in here and I probably missed it. The committee should be charged with coming back and discussing some of their findings periodically to the Board of Selectmen as the appointing, committee and everything, so, I mean, as the appointing, structure, so I think it's a good idea. I don't think it has to be something that's solved overnight. I think it ought to be done with great care.
And thoughtfulness.
I think, Alicia, that there is certain structure that the original committee found, because what the original committee did find, whether the communication was good or not good, Michael, was the fact that it kind of laid out those needs whether the needs were bigger than what the new police station has or not, at least it identified all those needs. And then, just like we did with the police station, and just with this committee, we'll start to do, it's gonna have to go to a building committee and everything else and knock those needs down.
Right.
Which was the process that we did before, and Bob and the crew are doing such a good job now trying to get it forward. So I don't see any problem with pushing this along. I don't think it has to be done tonight, I think it should be advertising for, getting, whatever.
Yeah, I think we need to just, if we agree that this general structure works, we can send it to legal to have them review it
Perfect.
Would it,
and start getting letters.
the only, after listening to you folks discuss, the only thing missing, should we specify an interval with which the committee comes back to the Board of Selectmen, so
that would-
neither one of us gets
that would- that
too
would be
far
good.
off the path?
Yeah, I mean, the 120 an hour, but maybe give us a legal put that in.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
ask them to
Yeah.
include that in the review.
so maybe we just have kind of a more, right, it wouldn't necessarily have to be every selectmen's meeting, but if we had a bi-monthly
Yeah.
update of what they're finding, and we could also, as the buzz increases, we can share what we're hearing.
I think bi-monthly is probably
Too much.
as needed, and if the committee is really wanting to get something to the board, they can certainly put it on the agenda. So,
So how do we feel about that last phrase? Do we wanna keep it or do you wanna
like I
strike it?
said, I don't have a problem with striking it out of structure.
What do you think?
It's like,
I think there should be the period after structure.
that's fine with me, I can live with either, okay, so I don't find it that bad.
Okay.
But,
I'm fine with striking it there, it seems to
Alright,
generate
alright,
consensus,
alright.
and
so, make a motion to strike it.
So I move we strike the phrase "and to begin generating support for the project."
And also to include bi-monthly updates from the board to the Board of Selectmen.
And also add to include bi-monthly updates to the Board of Selectmen.
second.
Do we want bi-monthly, every other month?
This is twice a month.
They're gonna be so immersed in,
Yeah, I don't wanna have to look at
looking
it.
at data and space needs and everything the
Second,
first few months. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
So you can, should I send that to Lisa, or?
Sure. Media committee discussion.
Yeah, we got one more. Open green,
That's later now.
It was, in the next thing. Okay, so I had sent out, and Ellen had sent out some, and I don't think they're part of our package, are they, did you print those out?
They're
Ellen?
loose.
Yeah, she did, she had another.
Here. Thank you.
Want the original?
Yeah, I'd like to marry the two of them.
If I may say, just before we move on, if people are interested in serving on the town hall committee, please start sending in letters so that when we get it back from legal, we can start moving forward with it. So I'd love to see the panel sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Julie. So, I have an idea on what I think this committee should be like. I sat on it before and it functioned very, very well. I think it needs to be an autonomous group of residents that advise the Board of Selectmen and advise and work and hire consultants and advise public access content for programming for the town of Newbury. I think we need to hire a part-time employee through the cable advisory money that we've got to liaison and work with the Triton Regional School District to schedule Newbury's education channel, to reach out to the other educational districts that exist in the town of Newbury, like Whittier and Essex Valley, or the new technical high school, whatever it is now, because they also have school committee meetings that should be aired onto that channel. And it needs to continue to implement the Board of Selectmen's policy that all boards and committees need to be recorded and aired on public access.
Totally agree.
So, the previous charge that we had in December of 2018 said the media committee shall develop a framework by which to implement and grow public access television in the town of Newbury, including but not limited to recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on hiring a professional to assist the committee in implementing and managing the public access studio, including educational and public programming, and coordinating with the governmental programming component, continuing to work with consultants to liaison with the committee and the Board of Selectmen to consult on equipment and design of the public access studio and coordination of the government and educational access.
So I think we should add to that charge to assist all government functions in broadcasting and recording their meetings.
Assist Sarah.
Hmm?
Assist Sarah, you mean.
Somehow get it into the charge of the media committee to get all meetings recorded and up. So I don't know how you'd like to phrase that, but
Well, and we can have this discussion because I think we need to. I see this committee working autonomously as not a branch or an extension of the town's government.
It should. That's the way it should be.
It should be
Yeah.
autonomous.
That's right, I totally agree with that.
That's what I think. Previously in the past, the past media committee had, we hired Caleb, we interviewed him, we posted the job descriptions, the media committee interviewed, there was like 3 people. Caleb was the one that was chosen, he was a consultant, and then he became, several years later, became a town employee. I think when his reporting structure changed to report to the town of Newbury, I think inherently that is not good for the independence of an autonomous committee who's tasked with shining a light on how the government works. I strongly believe in that. I believe in that with all that I am, that sunshine kills mold, and that there are currently some boards and committees that really need to be videotaped and recorded and uploaded because it's in the best interest of the town of Newbury.
so that's what I was suggesting you put in the charge.
Yeah. So, what I don't like about this particular charge, and I don't know if we can ask Lisa to change it, but, to grow public access television in the town of Newbury, including but not limited to recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on hiring a professional to assist the committee in implementing and managing the public access studio, including educational and public programming and coordinating with the governmental programming component. See, I think, does that cover what you just said, coordinating with the governmental programming component?
I think what this does, it certainly allows a media committee, or wants a media committee to include public programming and coordinating and see what Triton's doing and do all the things that it says below.
Mhm.
Frank will do with the education.
But it's really asking a lot for a committee to hire a town employee.
No, it's not gonna be a
No,
town
no.
employee, it cannot.
No,
Well, then start a 501c3 like all the other towns do.
No, we did it before.
Doesn't mean it was right.
I don't think it was
I
wrong.
don't know.
Well, I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but as I see this, and once again, you may know more than I do or not.
Mhm.
I think when this occurs, when there's that that economy that you want,
Yeah,
you develop a nonprofit.
I think it needs to move into that direction.
No, nonprofits aren't that hard, it should start there.
6 years ago, when Wish was on it, I was one of the, I used to sit in the audience, because I was always interested in media. And I said, in this charge here, we serve to foster free speech, creative expression, civic engagement, and to give a voice to all. I think that's the mission,
Right.
okay?
Right.
Which was, wasn't that Richard's mission years ago?
Yeah,
Which was fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've done this over and over and over and over. I mean, if it's gonna proceed in that direction, I think Salisbury's model,
Yeah, I'd like
you keep
to,
telling me is working
yeah,
really well.
I'd
I
like
would
to
head
see-
directly to that.
I'd like to see Lance, talk to Lance about, and I haven't done anything, because I haven't spoken to the board yet. But I'd like to reach out to Lance, in Salisbury to see if he could possibly, consult with us on how to build, what they have in Salisbury.
And looking, and always looking at the fact of, you know, are there compatible funds? I don't know if Salisbury's less or more than, you know, we gotta be able to accomplish the task too.
Right. But I think to end up where you wanna be, which is where I wanna be with the 501c3, we're not gonna get there today, we're not gonna get there tomorrow. And to put all of this on hold until we can figure out how to get a 501c3 is putting a stop to the whole process.
But you know what? Do me a favor, let's research how hard it is to go in the direction that seems to be what most people do.
Yeah, I
Because
think
have
we need a
I
little
have
consulting
a
help.
fear with, I mean, not saying that it didn't work well, but, you know, we've been doing committees for a while.
Yeah.
And now we're here, so I think it's time to look at what the next step is, what seems to be the next acceptable step, and go from there. I mean, before we just rush to another committee. I mean,
Well,
you know,
currently we don't have
Have a
a
committee, that's what.
but I'm saying, we should look at and project out, and you're right, talk to whoever you need to talk to, and, you know.
So I've
do
done a
some
little
work.
research on this. The fact that we don't have a cable advisory committee or a media committee or like everything else, that's not the norm. The norm for most cities and towns in the Commonwealth have 501c3s, have advisory committees, have cable advisory committees, have media, they call them different things. But the fact that the town of Newbury currently has nothing is not healthy.
What's the definition of an advisory committee?
A cable advisory committee,
Yeah.
somebody that does kind of this, what this stuff is. The committee is responsible for implementation of and oversight of production of programming for the channel, making programming decisions in accordance with operating policies, review and any appeals regarding decisions makings on program requests, reviewing site content and making recommendations for additions and improvements.
See, I don't have any problems with the word advisory and some of the stuff you just said. I mean, we have someone hired now, don't we, to start into some of that process? Isn't that what Sarah does? And Adam's in back now too. I mean, it's just the fact that I don't understand, I guess, I don't have anything against it, but if you're gonna have an appointed committee hire and run an employee, I think you should be a C3. And follow what the other towns have done.
I guess I have to agree with Jeff a little bit, and the hiring process gives me a little pause.
You're not hiring anybody, you don't have a town employee, you have a consultant.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no staffing, there's no wages, there's no,
Okay.
we 1099 them, you're not having a town employee. So it's just like hiring a consultant. Caleb was a consultant for a long time.
Can I ask a
before he became
question?
a town employee.
Is Sarah a town employee if she plays?
Sarah is a town employee,
Why can't we use cable money for that? Why, I mean,
we do.
okay, so,
And she's already starting to be able to do some of the work back there with Adam, but that's fine, I don't care how it goes. I'm all for getting everything out there. I'm a little worried about the process, that's all.
Yeah.
Because the last, you know, whether you think the last committee went well, or not, I mean, I'd like not to get in that position again, whether you thought it was a striking success or not, I'd like to kind of go a different direction.
What do you
So,
mean? What do you mean?
being the last media committee, so,
The last one,
yeah,
or the one before,
well, I mean, so anyway,
Something
I'm totally on board with whatever your goals are going to be. You said to me, because we did talk about this, that it's gonna take a few meetings to flesh this out.
right.
It's not gonna happen overnight, Jeff, don't worry about everything all of a sudden. But it seems to me, what you said earlier, if it's gonna be,
Autonomous.
and it's gonna hire a person, and it's gonna do this and all these things, it should be a nonprofit, 501c3.
Well, ideally, that would be the goal.
So why don't you ask Lance if he can come talk to us?
All right. I wasn't gonna do anything before we had a discussion as a board.
Well, you've got time, like you said, it's gonna take all summer to figure this out, so.
And what do you think?
I think we should get a committee together as soon as possible, okay? I think that this whole thing is about transparent government, it's about, also you can use public access in some way other things, okay?
But I mean, Michael, when Alicia talked to me, she said, well, we're gonna sneak a committee person in from the advisory board and take the people and put it on TV.
Hold on, Jeff, hold on, wait a minute,
But I
hold on,
mean,
Jeff,
none
Jeff,
of that
I never
stuff
said
works either.
sneak.
None of
Jeff,
that stuff
Jeff,
works
I
either.
never said sneak.
All right, well, you did, but why don't we just say,
No, I didn't, I said walk in, it's a public meeting,
well,
we can ask the
it's
task,
fine,
we
it's
can
fine.
task the media committee. Don't put words in my mouth.
well, I heard sneak.
Well, you may have heard sneak, but I didn't say sneak.
We need another person from now on when you talk to me.
Can I be that person?
So,
Then we're
no,
back
no,
to the
you can't do that.
I don't wanna get into he said, she said.
So,
You do agree that all these meetings do need to be aired,
I have no problem with that.
right?
Remember,
I mean,
if
we
you
made
remember
the
on the
charge.
phone, I said to you, I don't wanna be part of that sneaking.
Well, you may have said it, but I didn't say it.
So,
It's a public meeting, it's a posted meeting, it's, the
And we
Board of
have-
Selectmen have a policy that all our boards and committee meetings should be recorded and aired and uploaded, and
Well,
they're not.
And we'll go back to conversations, I've had a conversation with you over, this is a need, we have a
Right.
policy, not
Right.
everyone's following it.
and
So,
what,
I think if media committee was the perfect committee to task with that, enforcing that policy.
But we'll just slow down just a little bit, maybe going forward, so everyone can wrap their heads around the language. Maybe we should have a discussion with someone about a 501c3, just so we can all
I
wrap
think
our heads
Lance,
around.
I think, do you guys know
The options.
Lance? Do you know him at all? Do you know anything about him?
Who is Lance? I don't know.
Lance runs
Salt.
Salisbury
Okay,
TV.
I'm not familiar with
They're a
this.
501c3.
Yeah.
He's very knowledgeable about what's going on out in,
does that work well? I mean, I'm saying that because
It
it
does
seems to be where people are going, but I mean, does it work well?
very
Now,
much so.
what is the complete makeup of that process there?
Well, I'm not gonna speak for him, so
Good enough,
let's,
I also think we're gonna need assurance that the media committee doesn't just go and hire somebody's friend. I think going through
oh no,
Oh, no,
yeah,
no,
that's
going
not,
through the main office and advertising these positions, getting qualified candidates, and, hiring through Tracy. It's over the last few years, that's really been a way to clean things up. I wanna look back to, like, the DeThomas report, when we went to bat with Peter Epstein to negotiate the contract, Peter Epstein told me, like, this document this guy gave you is an antique. We paid $6,500 for an antique. I don't wanna do that again. And I think that's because the selection process for that hire could have been better.
well, I think part of the problem with the Thomas report was that we had a town employee willfully obstruct, his inquiry. He was not able to, if the consultant was able to speak to, town employees.
That's got nothing to do with
Well,
cameras and signals. Those were the antique
Well,
ones.
no, there was a little more than that, because it ended up having to, he was pushed in the direction of going towards Triton, because he wasn't told that there was other options in the town of Newbury, because at the time, the thought was from the current Board of Selectmen, well, no, the then Board of Selectmen, was that we were gonna build a public access studio. The thought was to possibly build a public access studio over in the new town hall.
Correct.
But that was never mentioned to that.
The equipment's over there now,
But
right?
here again, why was that not mentioned?
Well, because when he made an inquiry about it, he was, read the report.
Alicia, the equipment's over there
Whether,
now.
I know you don't, but were there other candidates considered, or was he just picked?
No, he wasn't just picked.
There were other candidates considered in interview.
Um,
That's what I
that-
want, that's what I
and
want to
read-
avoid,
read the
just
minutes.
picking somebody.
Yeah.
It's
no,
not
I'd
healthy.
have to go
That
back.
is
No,
not
Alicia, is the rest of the equipment over in the town hall now too?
I don't know where the equipment is.
But, no, the transmitting equipment, is that where that
Yes.
still is?
Mhm.
Yep.
And it's still in that downstairs, it's really not, you know, it's kinda wet in the whole 5 yards?
It's
Cause
raised
I
up,
know
isn't it?
we didn't carry it over here. So that-
No, we
remember?
carried some of the equipment here, didn't we?
Well, that equipment, yeah.
What we understand is it goes here
To
to
there.
there and Russia.
And that has to go over the internet, which is, could be
yes.
unreliable, yeah. So there's certainly some stuff ahead of us, I don't think, certainly starting to get goals together and everything else is a good way.
I'd like to see if we could speak to someone about a 501c3.
Yeah, so the next step, I think, is I'll ask Lance to come.
Okay, any other discussion on the media committee for right now?
I think the only
Anything
thing
else
is-
we wanna pursue between now and the next meeting or two?
I think maybe we should remind some of our committees that have opted to ignore the directive to post their meetings publicly, that the selectmen have, that's the policy of the town, that all meetings are recorded and broadcast.
Thank you, that's something that
Really
I have been,
irritates me.
it really irritates me. I've been trying to drag it over the finish line since we implemented that policy, and there's a couple people that just don't wanna listen, so.
Now,
I felt like I was the last one pulling on that rope, so it's
we-
nice to know there's a little bit of support here.
is there people that aren't televising their meetings that aren't elected boards? Are they all?
Sorry, say that again?
Are the elected boards the ones that aren't coming in?
Correct.
One of them, one of them.
No, all three of them are.
All three.
The three.
So that's where I don't know legally, that's where some of the rubber hits the road. You know, what,
Because we didn't appoint them, you mean?
no one wants anything appointed, I don't blame people for
People should
wanting-
be able to see what their elected boards are up to,
Right.
and who they
But I
are.
understand that, but I don't know, and that would be a question for legal, I don't know if other elected boards have the ability to tell other elected boards that you gotta do something.
We put a policy in place.
If it's policy, but they're gonna follow policy.
Well, I don't know about that.
All right, any other discussion on the media committee for right now?
So do we wanna get any clarity on what Jeff was just speaking to? Do we need to ask
Well-
town council if we do have the,
I mean, that's the way to proceed, I mean, if the policy in place, if you can make I mean, we're doing it because we're voluntarily doing it, because there's a, you know,
It's
something
policy.
in place. If other people are choosing not to do it, what is the censorship, I don't know if we've ever really asked that, Tracy, have we? So maybe your idea is either Alicia and Amy, JR's, ask Lisa and me what the next step is. You know, favorably, not looking at a proposal that's, I don't know, where that goes with elected boards.
she's gonna get some guidance for us.
Okay, so we'll be good for right now
I
on
think
that?
so.
All right. Police station building project, permit fees and discussion.
I put that on at my request, the, building inspector, generally when you do a town project, we ask that fees be waived, so that we don't have to pay ourselves the building permit fee. But, he suggested that it would be helpful to him that he had something on record from a vote of the board of selectmen, so we would need it both for the police department project as well as the streetlight conversion project.
Motion to waive fees for the police station building project?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I ask a question? What's the street light project?
We're switching to LEDs from the high pressure
Okay,
sodium
I'm-
in It's actually, Tracy, it might not be bad to bring it back up again, we get rebated quite a bit for doing this, correct?
Yep, we actually had our pre-installation conference last Thursday. So we met with the installer, Arden, and we're just waiting to complete the final documentation from National Grid to sell, to the lights to the town. Once we have that in place, they'll begin the work. It'll probably take a couple weeks throughout the summer, to replace all the existing fixtures with LED lighting, and it's basically, more efficient, reduces energy consumption, the fixtures have 20-year lifespan, greater control over the light distribution, decreases trespass into residences, things like that. And we did receive notification from National Grid that we were approved for an energy initiative rebate, and that's $27,000. We also got a grant from MAPC for $26,000. So basically, what's about $130,000 project is gonna be reduced to about $16,000 by the time we realize the first year of energy reduction, which is another $60,000. So,
That's nice.
it's a great project to be able to move forward when it was approved at town meeting, so.
Excellent.
Tracy, did we ever find out, and not to, but the state highway is still in this too, right?
I'm sorry.
I mean,
we're not
I know we're
approving
doing, no, town roads and everything are getting done as part of the lighting program.
Yeah,
But-
all of
So,
the
yeah,
500
1A
fixtures in
and
town,
one-
yes, yes,
perfect.
sorry.
I thought you were talking about 95, and I was like.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
I-
no, no,
95.
Same thing, state highway.
Yes.
Okay, so we would need a motion.
Motion to approve the street light purchase project fee, waiver.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Board of Selectmen reorganization.
I move that we appoint, J.R. Colby as chairman.
I'll second that.
I will, we have changed, and I talked to JR about it. I think it's time for change, and I would make a motion that we make Alicia Greco chair.
You could fall back to me for the second. The only reason, and one of the reasons I was quick to second that is I do believe that everyone needs more than 1 year as chair, having been chair for several years in this town. You usually start something down the road, and you really wanna kinda see some of the things
But
you worked on completed.
I had some, JR and I shared my concerns with him, okay, and he heard me. I'm not gonna if we wanna hash them over again, I can, but like I said, I got some major concerns, and I just think it's time for change.
Well, I got a small little thing that I wanna say because, I am really proud of all the work that this past board has accomplished and the direction that we have taken the town of Newbury. I have a vision that will increase transparency in local government, work collaboratively with others on the Chapter 70 challenges that currently face the town, and address our outstanding capital needs, which is the town hall. As chair, I'll be able to use my relationships with others to forge a stronger unity to benefit the taxpayers, residents, and students of the town of Newbury. And I am asking this board for your support in that endeavor. I happen to be lucky enough to work for a company that fosters volunteerism outside in your own local communities, and they will support me in my role as chair, and I'm willing to step up and not grab the torch from you, but continue to carry it on, because I really am proud of everything that this board has accomplished, and that was under your leadership.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Now we have two vice chair.
Yeah, is there a motion?
Motion to appoint David as vice chair.
Second.
Once again, I'm gonna say appoint Alicia, this time I'll say the reason why. You can't have your father's FinCom head and you as a vice chair, filling in his chair, I think it's too much power in a family. It's in the better interest of the town to get somebody that's not in that position.
I don't see how there's a conflict.
Oh, it's like I said, I can, and I think other people in town do. Okay? So, that being said, I make a motion to appoint Elizabeth as the vice chair.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Any other discussion on the motion on the table? All those in favor? Aye. Board of Selectmen member appointment to the Eastern Essex District Department of Veteran Services Board of Directors. So with the loss of Chuck, we need to appoint someone. Is there any interest?
I'd be interested in it, like I said, I've worked with Don, so, I would say that it was an honor. I wasn't a veteran, but my father was. So, like I said, so if you have the opening, I would.
Since you're here, would you mind coming up and talking a little bit about what it is that is required, how often you meet, all of the information?
Absolutely. I also don't think I have enough, but I brought a copy of the bylaws. I'm sorry I saw the agenda and saw that this was on the agenda, so I wish that I got a opportunity earlier to be able to provide you with information, but I'm glad you asked. So I think I haven't met you yet. I've met everybody else.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So I'm Karen Tyler. I'm the Veteran Service Officer for the town. And as you know, we're part of the district. And so, so the 8 towns, and so each town has a vote. We meet quarterly.
And we still be in Ipswich?
Yes. Yep. So we're meeting in Ipswich. And that's kind of that's where the office is. And they have a very nice long conference table, so it's nice and cozy. But we meet quarterly, and during that time, so the structure is, we have a treasurer, who is appointed, and so we do the financials, and then I give a VSO update, and then if there's any discussion of any events coming up or things like that, that's something that, that I talk about. It gives the opportunity for the board to come to me if there's anything going on in the towns and stuff. And so it's nice to meet quarterly and make sure that, everything's tracking, with what the towns are looking to do. It gives me an opportunity to share with them what the office has been doing, and hopefully they come back to you guys and say, hey, this is what's been going on with the veterans in the town. So, because one of the things that I just recently did, that was held in Newbury, in Byfield, was the Agent Orange burn pit registry and stuff. And so you might have seen it in the paper and stuff. And so that was a really successful event that we had. And so it's something like that I would share with the board. And so,
I have had, like I said, when I had a pharmacy in Newbury. And
What's that?
I had a pharmacy in Newbury.
Okay.
So I used to bill for the veterans, and I dealt with Ipswich and Raleigh and Newbury.
Yep.
So I had some experience in that side. And they always were really nice to work with.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Does anybody have any questions about it?
So is what you're asking, what the VOS member does is just a liaison, pretty
Right.
much.
Yep. So the main charge of the board is to, so I'll create my budget and stuff, and I'll present it, and so it's has the financial oversight of, and they're gonna be, whoever is appointed is the one that will approve the budget. And like right now, I'm on a contract, and so the contract is up for renewal, and so that's something that they would discuss.
Well, I think we're very lucky to have Karen, but back when, before the stability was at your job, Chuck was involved and the board was involved in, hiring you, and wasn't there someone, did we hire someone before you? Was there someone?
Oh,
I mean, there was that period of time when things were kinda going like this, so that's what the Board of Selectmen are involved in too.
Correct.
you know, keeping the, you know, stability of your office intact, you know, so, which is good, you know,
Absolutely.
so, I mean, I'm in trouble with Mike, so,
Yeah, I'll do it.
I
You
move
know,
that we appoint Mike as the Eastern Essex Department of Veteran Services member.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Keep me, I'll send you my contact information.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
When's the next meeting, Karen?
We're gonna be having a meeting on June 5th.
So Karen, if I have surgery on this Friday for shoulder replacement, so if I don't make that, I'll do my best though.
Okay, yep, that's fine. We're, we're moving forward. We're
Okay.
just cleaning up stuff from, this fiscal year, so
Okay, very good.
it's a good point.
June 5th, thank you.
Okay, I think, Lighting Mira, how are you tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, appreciate it. Glad you were able to fit me into your agenda. I know it's a busy time for the town, but I just wanted to discuss briefly.
Always happy to have you.
Well, thank you, appreciate that. I can do something. This is, it's about CSOs, or combined sewage overflows. This is something I've got a lot of phone calls on, a lot of emails on, a lot of people very concerned about, as you can imagine. And so this is just informational, something that I'm hoping that, the Board of Selectmen can share, with residents.
Okay, well, thanks.
Sure, you know. And
So basically, this covers reporting of sewage overflows when we have really large storm events and things, correct?
that's exactly right. If you look at the bottom of the first page, this is right from the EPA's website. They have a very good description on it. And basically, it's called combined sewage overflows because we combine our sewage. We combine surface runoff from our roads, parking lots, et cetera, with the sewage that comes out of our homes and our buildings. And it's one pipe that goes into a sewage treatment facility. And on a typical day, that's not a problem. They treat the water before it's discharged into the river. But if there's any amount of precipitation, it results in too much volume of water going to that treatment facility, in which case they just dump it or release it into the Merrimack untreated. And even a small amount of rain like today, where there's less than a half an inch, even this amount of rain can result in some CSO. And so there is raw sewage going into the river on days like today. And I was just at Ross Village Bridge yesterday, and today there's cars there now, there's people wading in the water as they're fishing, shadow running, people putting boats in the water, canoes, kayaks. So this is just information to bring residents up to date on what's happening, and also what we're gonna try to do about it. And this is something that's been going on for a long time. This is not recent, this has been happening for decades. And it's not because of wrongdoing or any problem with the treatment facilities. They were actually designed this way. When they built these facilities, their philosophy was the solution to pollution is dilution. And they just assumed that if we mix this with a large amount of water in the Merrimack, that it wouldn't create a problem. Well, of course, it does create a problem when people and pets are in the river. And so what we saw was an increase in incidents at our hospitals of gastrointestinal disorders following these sewage overflows. We also see an increase of dogs and veterinarians with lesions on their skin. So we want to warn residents, following a day like today, just be wary of this, keeping people, especially pets and children, out of the water. I have people on Plum Island like to go surfing on Plum Island, and they like to go surfing after a storm. That's when the waves are the best. Well, that's also when the sewage overflows occur. So I want to bring people up to date on that, make sure everyone's clear on it. You'll recall the local media did a good job on reporting this. This was pretty much unknown by most people until the news started reporting on it last year. So we jumped into action, and as soon as we got sworn in this January, there were a number of bills filed to address this. And so I'm just going to give you this as these are just 3 examples of some of the bills. So just so you know, in January, when we get sworn in, there's a mad dash to submit legislation with a 2-week deadline. And if we make that deadline, then that means we'll defer this session, okay? And we submitted.
Any idea how many towns are actually discharging now?
I think this describes 5 of them into the river, into the Merrimack.
Is that like the whole I mean, are we getting discharged upstream too, like, as it heads into New Hampshire? We're getting a lot of.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Jeff.
I mean, they're discharging the whole length of the Charlestown Merrimack River. It's unbelievable.
That's
So,
exactly
I have
right.
a question, does this
Sure.
impact the Parker River at all?
I'm not sure anything gets discharged into the Parker River. That I don't know.
I would I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no.
No, but I
Well,
don't
the
mean
GBA.
discharge,
Well, but no, that's not what they're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
Dumb and Dumber, I think, is cleaning things up. Joey?
They have.
Jeff, remember when we had the big thing with the disc coming down the
Oh,
river?
yeah.
Okay, if you remember, I was up in the helicopter with Bruce Tarr and took several hundred pictures. And we had the plume coming out of the Merrimack River, because it was a brown plume. It went the length of Plum Island and up the Parker River, you could see it.
Yeah.
So if you need those, Bruce has a copy of them and Doug Packer does.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those did come down from New Hampshire.
Yeah, those are the ones we took to the
Joe's
Army
actually
Corps of
talking-
Engineers.
He's actually talking the disc, but what was more.
No, it was the dirt that
the
you could
plume,
see. Yeah, the
you
plume.
could see.
Yeah.
And what they talk about by the time it got down there was somewhat diluted, but still, it was going,
It was still pretty brown, tan.
I know.
so did it go up the Plum Island River?
It went in the mouth of the Parker River and up, and you could see it, because it went down the length of Plum Island, and then the tide was coming in, and so it went up the Parker
So
River.
when the tide goes in the Parker, it just pushes it.
Yeah,
Well,
pushes it in.
goes up the Ipswich and Parker rivers,
Yeah.
goes up both rivers.
So Lenny, I guess my question about these bills is, do we have any force up in New Hampshire to require them to report when they're discharging?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this represents 3 of several bills that were filed, and it represents what I call short-term, medium-term, and long-term. In the short-term, I think the most important thing we should do is notification. And so Representative Calquist has Amesbury, Salisbury, and Newburyport. So this affects him just as much as it does me. And we wanted to make sure a bill got out where we require some sort of notification system. We don't know what form that will take, Damon, whether it's a reverse 9/11 system, or perhaps something like a Amber Alert. It could be something like that. Or perhaps, like we wrote, having the DEP be like a clearinghouse for this information, so that all the sewage treatment plants reports to DEP, and they reports to the public. But we will require the cooperation of New Hampshire. This notification system will be pretty much useless unless they cooperate. We don't know what they're putting in the river. Our information is really not that helpful. So this involves not only multiple states, but also 3 levels of government. We met with the mayors of all the cities that are involved with this, and our state legislation met with the new congressperson, Laurie Trahan. She took over for Nikki Saunders. That district has most of the river, and she's been fabulous. She's been great. She has a bill actually already looking ahead to rectify the situation by putting an amendment in an infrastructure bill to finally address the situation. Now, if we get Congress to do an infrastructure bill, that would be great. Don't ask me when that's gonna happen. But in the meantime, in the short term, we want notification. In the medium term, you'll see that second bill, Livian came out of the bill to fund generators for these sewage treatment plants, so that when the power goes out, they're still able to treat sewage. Right now, some of those plants don't even have backup. So we wanna make sure in the case of a hurricane or some other disaster where they lose power, we wanna make sure they're still able to function. And in the long term, you'll see Diane Dzogli, the new senator, has most of the river in her district as well. She has a bill to create a commission that will study the issue and come up with long-term solutions to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, we don't know what form that will take either, David, because some states use underground storage tanks to hold the volume until they can discharge it after being treated. Perhaps it'll be separating runoff, surface runoff from sewage, which is something I'd like to see, because I don't see a need to mix those two. I think there's gotta be a way the engineers come up with a solution to that as well. So she created a commission to do that, to create a long-term solution to the problem so that it doesn't happen anymore. Because this river is something that we all rely on. Don't forget, it's not just for recreation, it's not just for boating and fishing. This is a drinking water source for hundreds of thousands of people as well. So it's something that's gotta be protected. So today was just about information. I wanna make sure, every child in my district knows about this. And, it's that time of year when people are starting to go in the river. A lot of boats in the water, a lot of kayaks, and like I said, people are already fishing in it, so just informational today.
Lenny, not to push you, but how the notifications reach us?
That's a great question, Jeff.
Is it gonna be reverse 911, Tracy, or something like that? Would that work?
Well, it would have to come from the treatment facilities to us, we'd have to be notified
So
first.
how is it gonna get to the people?
There's different opinions on how we should do that, Jeff. We met with the sewage operators at the State House a couple of weeks ago. They met with us for almost 2 hours, and they operate in what we call silos of information. And sometimes Lawrence doesn't communicate with what Havel is doing, and they don't communicate what Manchester and Nashua are doing. So we gotta make sure they're all on the same page. And I wanted to reverse 9/11 system only because it's instant and quick. Linda Dean Campbell has a bill that does a ratings kind of system where, you know, the amount of discharge is recorded and reported so that people know the level. So it could be like, you know, how we have terrorist alerts that go from green to yellow to red, depending on severity. Same with air quality. We have air quality reports when it's humid and hot and elderly people are, you know, requested to stay indoors. Perhaps it'd be something like that. But I'd like to see something where perhaps the DEP acts as a clearinghouse for that, so that our residents have a place to go to where they know they can get the information. That can be combined, by the way. It doesn't have to be just one solution. Perhaps people can sign up for an email alert or a text alert to their phones. You get an Amber Alert right now for certain issues like storm severity, and that's very efficient. It's effective. It's quick, and it's something we'd like to see. And we're also going to have, you know, deadlines on these sewer treatment plants to report their outflows, so that we know quickly how often it happens. Other states have already dealt with this, like I said, and some of them have. I think New York requires their sewer treatment plants to report within a number of hours. Other states have it within 24 hours or a day or two. But this will be hammered out, and that's why we kind of got this legislation submitted by the deadline. We want to make sure it happens sooner rather than later.
It seems like since the system is an automated system to discharge, they should be able to automate, to tag onto that automated system to send out alerts. So.
That's exactly right. What they said is they could do that, David, but the number of gallons could take a while to report. But to me, that number of gallons is not nearly as important as knowing quickly when it happens.
Right, and being able to make a personal choice if you're willing to go into the water or not, but it's good to just let
That's
people
exactly
know.
right. And if you're boating, perhaps, that's one thing. But if you're fishing, it's another. And if you're swimming in it, certainly that's quite another level that you need to be aware of. But my house in West Newbury is near the river. There's a sandbar in the middle of it. And I noticed last summer boats would anchor there and kids would be playing in knee-deep water. And I don't know if they were aware that if this is following a CSO, then there's raw sewage in that water. So we want to make sure people know about this. I just think it's vitally important. So yeah, we're on it, and this is just a informational thing to let you know what we're doing about it.
One of the things that could come out of this too, Lenny, is when people really realize how often this really happens.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna have tremendous outrage, because it happens all the time.
That's exactly right, and if you read the rest of this page, it's not just when it rains, it's not just sewage outflows. We've got bacterial charge, we've got nutrients running off of farms and lawns, taking, you know, pollutants into the river. We've got illicit sewage discharges where houses.
These are the big ones, though, you know, they
Correct.
let it go.
These are the big ones. What I'm getting at, it's not just sewage outflows. There are other issues. Even when there's not a sewage outflow from a sewage treatment plant, there are still incidents where pollutants are entering the water, and you know people need to be made aware of that. So, and don't forget, the EPA is on this as well, as you guys well know. You were handed mandates from the EPA, I think it's called MS4 requirements, where we're required to locate our culverts and repair them, probably on a tax code, and it's a big, expensive requirement. I've heard from all my towns on this, but that's all part of this effort.
I think it's kind of wild though, like our testing that goes on for marine fisheries, for like the clam industry, can actually pick up when the geese are migrating. All right, you'll get higher readings. So if you can imagine what we have, you know, as an ability to actually track this stuff, and you're getting 800,000 gallons of raw sewage going in the river, something has to happen soon.
Yes,
So,
we agree. And like I said, I can't stress enough that Representative Trahan has been on top of it. She's been very accessible. I met with her more in the last 3 months than the rest of the delegation over the past 6 years because of this issue. And she had us meet in Lowell with every state rep and every state senator in the area. And so I'm trying to get her to meet with New Hampshire as well, like I said, to get them on the same schedule, because this reporting isn't gonna help us if they don't do their reporting as well.
Right.
So,
and Lenny, you're starting to get legislative delegation, isn't Markey climbing on board too, and a bunch of the guys?
I believe he does have a bill.
Yeah,
As
they're
does
getting,
Congressman Moulton too, I believe,
yeah,
has his own
Bolton
bill.
and Markey both,
Mm-hmm.
so it's good.
I think so too, yeah, absolutely, we're all pulling in the same direction on this, and I just came from Groveland where we had the same conversation, and it's something our residents expect, you know, it's a basic function of government, and, just like they get up in the morning on a winter day, they expect the roads to be plowed. That doesn't happen by magic, it happens because you guys make it happen, and the same thing has to happen with this as well, we gotta make sure, you know, it's done right, so.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny.
Have a good night.
You too.
How you been?
Good, good.
Administrators report.
Thank you.
Sure, we already talked about the penalty waiver and National Grid, so Newbury Elementary School lease agreement, those are moving forward. We met, actually, I think you were all there at the BCC committee meeting. The last item for discussion is I'm gonna meet with Rowley and Salisbury managers to discuss, notifications. I think there was a little inconsistency of the way the three towns wanted to be notified, so if we can reach an agreement that at the next, hopefully your next, BCC meeting, we will have already moved that forward. Town landing, I don't know if you've been down there, but the built-in floating docks are done and they really look great. We've had a lot of very positive feedback, so many thanks to Dan and Josh Brown for all their efforts, Chief Riley. What would have cost us probably close to about $50,000, it cost us about $8,000 in materials. They did all the work themselves, so it was really a great effort. Clear Government, Chairman Colby and I had an opportunity to meet with them and view a demonstration. It really is a phenomenal program, and it would make my life a lot easier in terms of budgeting. Give you transparency, what you're seeking, everything's available. They don't have to put in a public records request, it's there. It's all right there on the website if people, you know, wanna go to it, they can see it all.
Do you wanna explain again what that is for the people who may not have heard about it?
Sure, it's basically to build, a more productive collaboration, if you will, with your community. It just gives them access to all of the, town's budgetary records, financial records, in a manner that is probably different than what I would communicate to them. It's very, easy to read, they do a lot of visuals, so they take all this complex data that you input and they make it very, readable, if you will, in language people can understand, not in government speak. And it gives you an opportunity to showcase the projects that the community's working on, so you'd have those all up there as well. I don't know, it just provides like a financial dashboard that's very easy to read. So I think at this point we'd like to move forward with it.
So is this in addition to the town's website, or is it later
It's
on
on the
top
town's
of?
website.
It'd be a big old button on it. And then you can pull all this stuff up.
And then that acts as a portal, take you into the next, to a different place? Like
Well, it
different
would-
program?
It would be a Newbury's Clear Gov page.
Okay.
Is this the one Georgetown did?
Correct.
Georgetown has it, yep.
And they got grant money.
I don't know.
Okay, I thought they did, so maybe there's something we could look into.
Yeah, our town accountant has already reached out to them,
Very good.
to talk to them about it, so. But it's a pretty great program, and it would work well with our software, SoftWrite, as well as our, website software, so.
Good. Excellent.
And I already gave you the streetlight conversion, so that's all right for this one.
Do you need to have a motion from us about pursuing a contract with them, or are you just gonna do it?
If you want one.
It's called ClearGov.
Yep.
I move that we enter into contract negotiations with ClearGov to bring the town information forward.
I'll second that too, yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor? Excellent.
Tracy, some people might not know Eileen, who's sitting out there, who is the town accountant and what finance
Oh,
director.
yep. Hi, Eileen DeVoe, our town
Not much
accountant,
gets
assistant
by,
finance
I
director.
so,
We have emails from Jonathan Higgins. Is he here tonight?
Yep.
There you are.
Yeah, so I'm asking to add, I'm John Higgins of Higgins Environmental, Deepwater Technologies. I'm using Upper Green Pond in Newbury as a proof of concept location for some camp technologies that I developed. Right now I have 2 passive units that go 8 pods in the pond. They're actively collecting algae. And the algae itself has elevated levels of phosphorus in it. There's actually ore grade. So I'm a geologist, I'm extracting minerals from the pond. That's basically what I'm doing. And what I'd like to do is add another unit to one of the other patents to it, it's called a P-pod. Maybe Alan some information about that up there, everyone's seen that? This is what it looks like, and it's hard to look at 2D. So this is a little P-pod, and it goes in the water and sits on the sediment surface. It has a little teeny net that things can get out of. Dragonfly nets and little turtles, if I happen to put one on there. But what it allows me to do is to control the geochemistry of the water above the sediment surface. That allows me to extract particular nutrient out depending on its chemical properties. In this case, I want to use it to remove sulfate. So as many of you know, New England was subject to acid rain deposition for decades, and that's not the sulfate impact in our sediments. That changed the geochemistry of our water, makes phosphorus more available, binds up iron.
How long does it take, once you put it down, to extract the sulfate from a, what is that? Two and a half.
Yeah, well, so the sulfate's already being, so the sulfate is the sulfate sulfide, it's a redox kind of condition.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stays in place is because once it gets oxidized, it converts over to sulfate. So what this allows me to do is leave it in an oxy condition so that the sulfate stays as sulfide, hopefully it's hydrogen sulfide. But it actually will very quickly get some of the hydrogen sulfide that's already in the sediment out, like almost right away. And I actually don't know exactly how long it's going to take. I don't think it's going to take very long. That's this is a proof of concept location. And not many people even look at sulfate, so I'm kind of on the cutting edge for that. And it's a reaction to phosphorus and iron. So I'm essentially paving a new path out there. Yeah. So I don't think it'll take very long though, and I don't have to add any crazy chemicals or anything. So what I would do would be to increase the anaerobic degradation of the sediment, which would be sulfate reducing bacteria. But I could just add like sugar or some to basically some easy glucose or carbon source for them to degrade. And I'll know because I'll get little bubbles coming out.
Yeah.
So that sits on the bottom, right?
Yeah, that would sit in the bottom. And there'd be a series of them that just move them from one to the next. And this is a proof of concept location for me too. So I invite people from other towns in to take a look at the technology. It saves me from having to set up in different towns and go through all the different boards like I've done for Newbury. So that's the advantage that I have. The advantage for Newbury is it's just the cost of laboratory analysis. It's just I keep minimal. But my time is just my time.
And how does the collection work on this one?
Well, for sulfate, it comes off as a gas, so it actually would come off. And so when I walk around the pond and the bubbles come up, I can smell the hydrogen sulfide coming up. It's just that it's a deeper level, it's not the top layer. So it would bubble up.
So you're not going to be measuring it as far as?
I've already measured a baseline level for sulfates in sediment. So that's what I do for phosphorus. So last year I removed one algae bloom. Last year was a weird year. We had like from mid-July to January, it rained every 3 days. Okay, that kept the algae blooms down. But in September we had about a 4-week window, not too much for rain. We had one algae bloom that I removed. And so as my baseline in 2017 after ice out, I sampled sediment in the pond. And I compared my past results since then to that. And in April of this year I collected another sample. We had a 58% reduction in phosphorus concentration in sediment, which is fantastic. And this year has actually been going great. It's almost, you're seeing out there a lot, there's a continuous source of algae coming up off the sediment surface, benthic algae. As it photosynthesizes, the algae gives off oxygen, it gets stuck in the filaments and it rises it up as big gnats. If the wind blows favorably, it collects either one of my pods, either end of the pond, okay? That's what I've been collecting, which is great for me because it is literally ore grade material for phosphorus. So what I went to school for. I just didn't think I'd be doing it in the pond in Newbury. I thought it'd be out in like some weird crazy place like Indiana Jones, you know.
Yeah, it's just, it always, I love reading the letters and seeing the development, so I was just curious how you're gonna measure it. So you'll take like a core sample of the sediment and then one after you've been there for a while and you just compare those two
Yeah.
to see what the effects are?
Well, my field measurements will be actually off gassing. There'll be a rate to that, it'll be eyeball rate.
Okay.
It's just, cause that's gonna tell me something. When I stop seeing off gassing, it's time to move to PFAS. I'll just shut them over. And I should see the similar kind of trend, larger emission of gas initially, and then I may add some sugar to kind of see what I can do. And once that stops, it's just time to move. And then I'll do another baseline sample, I deposit it for sulfate to see what I've done. Now, so the sulfate deposition has decreased in New England since the 1990 Clean Air Act amendments under Bush, but it stays stuck in the sediment for a long time. That's a problem. And it interacts with our environment in ways that we don't actually see, because most of us haven't lived long enough to know, like, what was New England waters like before we had acid rain deposition? Was it clear water? My research says it was actually golden colored, tea colored water, high in tannins and iron. That's our native waters. It's beyond our lifetime to even know. So I also, I've actually collected about 100 pounds of dried out algae so far this year. It's been going great for me. And so not only do I sample in the pond, I collect it and dry it, and I'll composite the algae that I remove. I'll have that analyzed too, and I can kind of reconcile what I've removed versus what I haven't set.
Sounds good.
Any other questions for Mr. Higgins or his new device?
I think he's doing his fabulous.
Thanks, appreciate it.
You'll be seeing me a lot, I want my dog to do every day.
Oh yeah, that's actually, it's great for me. A lot of people stop by and talk and say, that's kind of what I like about it, so, yeah. Well, thank you very much, I appreciate it. It's nice that it's so close for me. Thank you.
Sure, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, do we still have something to do there?
I think we just need to talk about it and make sure it's.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The pond. Yeah, all right, take it away on
So last meeting, we sent the charge to the Upper Green Committee to council. I believe they didn't have anything to say about it. So for the next meeting, we'd love to have some letters so we can seat a committee and they can do some work over the summer when the green is being used. So any interested parties, please send letters to the Board of Selectmen so that we can get a committee up and running and get the green cleaned up, which I know was important to everybody. I think that's all we have to say about it. So I think at the next meeting, we'll try and seat that committee if we've gotten members. Oh, I guess we should approve the charge. So.
It's just on council.
Yes. All right, so I'll read the charge again. The Upper Green Advisory Committee shall be composed of 5 members of the community. The function of the Upper Green Advisory Committee is to seek community input about how to improve the Upper Green. Through extensive outreach and discussion, the UGAC shall create a priorities list of actionable projects. The UGAC shall submit the list to the Selectmen 6 months after being formed. The UGAC shall start by reviewing the public hearings around the Green ER hearings to get a baseline for citizen concerns. Prior to reporting back to the Selectmen, the UGAC shall hold no less than 2 public hearings to present ideas and receive input from the public.
Motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Dawn Jarvis.
Thank you, JR. I made a little presentation to highlight a few things. So I can do this.
Nothing's cursed, just so you know.
So was my wife, I feel. All right, so we're getting into this now. Okay, so my name's Don Jarvis. I'm a veteran in town. I've also served in Iraq and Afghanistan. I wear many hats. I've been following this project briefly, but I wanted to kind of give the board some of my thoughts and ideas on it. I cannot be part of the committee as I work directly for the state for the Department of Veteran Services, so there is a conflict of interest. But I do want to share some ideas that I have with the board. So I made up a little presentation. I'm gonna go really quick. So, I know it's called Veterans Park. I call it Memorial Park because I think we should go beyond World War II. I do understand that within the next less than 10 years, we'll have no more World War II and Korea vets. I deal with it daily. But I think we have a lot of veterans here in the town that have served from the French and Indian Revolutionary War, American Revolutionary War, up until the guys like me, Iraq and Afghanistan. So I'm gonna refer, for the whole presentation, I'm gonna call it Veterans Memorial Park. It may be the wrong name, but that's what I'm gonna call it. Sorry. Veterans Memorial Park should be an established location from the town of Newbury that honors all residents from Byfield, Newbury, and Plum Island who served in wars ranging from the French and Indian War to the recent conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Veterans Memorial Park will also display the World War II Memorial Monument, which was recently moved along Main Street. Along Central Street, there should be a few new flagpoles. Those should be flying the American flag, POW, the Mass state flag, and the town flag. This park will have an added feature, in my theory, in the back right corner that I'm referring to as reflections of Newbury. In this designated area, there will be several tall granite markers. All the granite markers will be strategically placed to make a wall with the ends that kick out at a slight angle, so kind of models a curve over there. This wall shall be referred to as Newbury's Honor Roll. I use that name when I do the wreaths. At the end of my wreath ceremony, we do a slide and we show every veteran that's buried in Newbury, and as well as those who have passed away that year, and I call it Newbury's Honor Roll. So I figured it'd be kind of a nice carryover. The honor roll will be broken down by conflict/war. And I say conflicts because some people will say the last declaration of war by Congress was World War II. So technically Iraq and Afghanistan are conflicts, they're not wars, by Congress definition. Space should be allotted for future names to be added for wars ranging from French and Indian War to the recent conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. There should also be some thought about allotting any future possible conflicts. Unfortunately, I don't think we've ever seen the end of war yet.
Conflicts arise, don't they?
They do. And I think Iran's kicking up right now, sadly. Doesn't look good. So here's a rough outline of what I did on my phone. I made this whole presentation on my cell phone, so it's not fancy. See what I mean? So in that corner is that wall I was referring to. In the bottom, right there, is the World War II memorial, which is not gonna work. And the flags in the top. I didn't put the POW because it's black and you won't see it. But it gives you the idea. Very basic. It is ADA accessible, which a lot of the parks are in the state. And we have a lot of parks happening right now as we speak. One just finished in Salisbury, I'll highlight. So the goal, I say 10 years, it's a little extreme, I get that, but it gives us a working period that could be a lot shorter, which I'll highlight. Within a time period of no longer than 10 years, a committee should work towards establishing the funds, a yearly maintenance schedule and upkeep, and the last of the project should be the construction of the Veterans Memorial Park at the lowest and most efficient time possible. Project should be complete within 10 years. I don't see that being a problem. I think it's gonna come in way under, to tell you the truth. Project should be broken down into separate phases to provide maximum efficiency. The way I work is you set one big goal, and then you build smaller goals for the bigger achievement. And I think you have better success that way. Any questions? Sorry, I'm just gonna fly through this.
You keep going with your presentation last bit.
All right, good enough. So phase one. Phase one should be referred to as the planning and research. This phase should take 1 to 3 years. That's up to the committee and how fast the committee works, and effective the committee works, not about speed. Research and visit other veteran memorial sites in Massachusetts. Ideally, it would be nice to see at least 5 to 10 different locations, see what works, envision some different ideas, and that's wonderful space in Byfield. research the cost of material along with quality and the upkeep. What are their plans? How are they taking care of it? And what's the cheapest and most effective way to get things done? We have several memorial sites throughout the state. I visited tons of them because of my job. And I've seen them in all different shapes and sizes and material. I don't think we need to go crazy. This is not Washington DC, but we do need something that's nice. And I will show you, I love Salisbury's. I'll show you that. So work closely with the Director of Veteran Services for Newbury and as well as the town officials on a suitable and realistic design and layout. I think getting the input from you guys, as well as Karen, and other offices, I think collectively, the committees and the other groups could have a good plan, to move forward on this. Recruit people to form executive committees, a fundraising committee and a design committee. I think it'd be more effective to have 3 separate committees instead of one committee tackling everything. It's a lot. From somebody who tackles everything and does incident handling, it's too much. So having a committee that handles each, and I'll outline what each committee could kind of do, would be, I think, the most effective way to handle this. And also, I have a real soft spot, even though I'm not a Boy Scout, for the Boy Scouts. So my other question is, can any of this piece of this project be an Eagle Scout project? Or projects, right? We're looking at multiple things here. Could we involve the Boy Scouts? We have a lot of great scouts here. We have a great troop in Newbury, we're blessed. Phase 2 should be referred to as fundraising and funding. This phase, again, could take 1 to 3 years, up to the committee. Establish a fundraising committee whose role is to create events, projects, and ideas that directly supports the funding and completion of this project. Fundraising for this project should be considered for 1 to 3 years. It can be quick. It depends on how you want to get the funds and how much the project's going to cost. I have some idea ballparks on my head on what I've seen previously. They can get up to 100,000. They can be down to 20, 30,000. Depends what you're doing. And they can be even higher. Look at DC. It's crazy. The town of Newbury should consider making a request to the state for funds designated to support and design the construction of the Veteran Memorial Park. For example, I would recommend $10,000 to $15,000. That's also the reason why I can't be involved, because I do strongly encourage you guys doing that. Most every other group that I've looked into has done that, and the state has granted the money. Lenny, who may not, is not here, who was here, is a huge advocate for veterans, and I know if him and Bruce, if you guys approached them, they would fight up on the hill next year for budget to get you guys the cash. Maybe you can get more than that. But I do strongly recommend that you guys consider going to the state to get funding. Committee explores any possible grants in addition that may be available to provide extra support and funding. Funding should also be considered not just for the construction, but also for the upkeep moving forward. This should not be intended to have any financial burden on the town. Not that you intended, but should not have any financial burden. I know the upkeep for the lawn is a huge concern. I've dealt with First Parish and burying ground, and that's a big piece of that problem is funding with the maintenance. So it's something I consider. Phase 3 should be referred to as the construction / maintenance. Again, this phase could take 1 to 3 years, depending on the committee. Think about dedication ceremony upon completion. Given it's a memorial park, I would say the dedication ceremony should happen around Memorial Day. It only makes sense. And it would be nice to see the town do something for Memorial Day, which I'll cover in this later. But I think a nice dedication ceremony, maybe having the Board of Selectmen there, having Lenny, having Bruce, having the Secretary of Veteran Services to come out. Especially if we get state money, we could do a nice ceremony here to open the park. So some ideas I had in addition to all this, project-related ideas. I'm a little crazy sometimes, I will admit that, so some of these are off the wall. So the first one is routine maintenance schedule should be conducted 4 to 8 weeks, depending on weather conditions that directly impact the condition of the park. So with that, grass is a big one. And I'm not sure what the poison ivy looks like over there, but if it's anything like it was in First Parish, you will be covered quick. So that's something to consider. And how do you kill the poison ivy in an environmentally safe way? Work with the Newbury Boy Scouts, Troop 44, to establish cleanup days throughout the year. I can tell you, they've already asked me several times so far about going to the cemeteries to do work. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to do work at the park. And we don't gotta give them anything crazy, but simple projects go a long way, right? Something that I love to do is I've established a relationship with Triton Regional High School, Triton Regional School District, to be more exact. I think that our students are underutilized and they're very talented. I think that by us not using them, we're wasting a valuable resource here in the town. Our tax dollars goes towards Triton to educate and teach our children. I think would be wise for us to utilize our investment. These are our future leaders and our future residents that are gonna really make an impact and be part of this community hopefully long term. So why not start them young? I've used just a soccer team and football team to do work in Upkeep in October. I used 60 students in October to work in cemeteries. I'm sure they would love to also work at the Veteran Park. The track and wrestling team could also start in the spring. So there's your spring and your fall cleanup taken care of by our students. You know, what a great work that would be, and a collaborative work with our students. And I'm sure elementary school could bring the kids down and do something as well. I'm also big in the corrections facilities. Community service through Essex County Correction Facility. I do know that one thing you need to do is provide them lunch. You may need to provide some supplies and water during the day. That's really cheap and minimal, and it's good therapy for those guys. And I say guys because it's a male prison. It's a really good program. I use them for some of my community meals that I do in the community, and they're great people. Sometimes, and the chief could probably say the same thing. Good people make bad choices, right? So here we are, I think this opportunity, we can give these guys a chance to get back in the community and make a change and pay their debt to society. Also, establish a relationship with the Newburyport District Court Probation Department for those who need to perform community service hours. We have a courthouse in town that covers a lot of areas, Salisbury, Amesbury, I think it was down to Raleigh. Probation's pretty busy there. I for my job, I work in the courts a lot. And I can tell you there's a lot of people that need community service hours, and this might be a good resource for free labor for us to tap into, with some guidance. Again, why are we utilizing all our resources, or at least looking into it? The other program is our established relationship with the specialty courts in Essex County, and have them be a resource for help. I know, speaking from experience, I work for the Veteran Treatment Court for Essex County. And every participant, every veteran is required to do 30 hours in 2 years as part of the treatment. So we have a good amount of veterans in the court program. They could all be a resource to help take care of the Veteran Memorial Park. And they would do it with pride because they're also veterans. But they also have the drug court and other courts too. So I think it's something we'll definitely look into. Again, it's free labor, and you're gonna, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but you're gonna make these guys do something that's gonna reinstill pride into themselves, you know, and they're gonna walk away feeling good about it, right? The flag box here in town, I purposely wanted the high school kids to do that. You know, I didn't want them to tell me what it was gonna look like, but I wanted them to be part of the town. Usually they don't have many kids to do that. Same with the last three, correction facility and the two courts. I think we'll give people an opportunity to kind of redeem themselves and build themselves back up, right? Good people make bad choices, right? Doesn't mean they're bad people. So I think they take a lot of great work into taking care of our Veteran Memorial Park. Okay, so here's where I go a little crazy. So when I took on the role as the Veteran Grave Officer, we did not have a database readily available with all the buried veterans here in town. I've since created that. And I've learned a lot about these individuals who are resting here in the town. And what I've also seen is I've seen a lot of these memorial sites, but you don't get to read about who's on the wall, you just see their name. I'd like to see that changed through a program called Newbury's Reflections. So in the back corner, we call it Reflection of Newbury, or Newbury Honor Roll. This book mimics that. So the idea is to explore ideas of a Newbury Reflection book series, not one book. These books would feature stories of local veterans, either on the wall or are currently a resident in Newbury and Byfield. Books could be written with the help of high school students. This is both local history and US history, depending on how far back you go. And supported by documentation shared with the students, through me, through Karen, through genealogists. We could do the research for the deceased veterans. We could also have the students interview veterans here in town. I'm sure Karen, as well as working with the board, can come up with questions that our students could ask our residents who are veterans in this town. And I want to say we have about 500 to 600, maybe 700 veterans living in Newbury currently. So if we have the students interview, let's say a couple dozen veterans a year, plus reach a couple dozen veterans a year, there's a book, right? The proceeds from that book can go into a fund, a revolving account to take care of that site. You're not gonna get rich, but you got something coming in. And then also when you're sitting in that park, in the reflection area, we're gonna call it, you can have that book and you can read about some of those names on the wall. Written by the kids and for the community. With that said, I think the reading level should be between 3rd and 5th grade reading level. I say that because that means everybody in this town can comprehend and understand what that book says. Okay, except for those in diapers. But I think we're having a 3rd and 5th grade reading level. It really lets us educate and share stories with just about everybody, right? Elementary school students can read it, learn about it in class. Our seniors can read about it, learn about it in class. So it's an idea that's been sitting in my head for a long time. I don't have the time to do it. But I think, I would love to be part of it. But I think it'd be a great resource for the town. As I mentioned earlier, within the next 10 years, our World War II and Korean veterans are gonna all be dead across the world, right? So we had some here in town. One of them was just a post-King gentleman who passed away. He was a World War II veteran. It would have been great to sit down with him and capture his story for this book for the future. I know Brady Taylor, he passed away a few years ago. He was a veteran, right? We have other veterans too. It would be great to capture those stories of those who are still alive, or get their story from family members. I'm sure Brady Taylor's family would love to share a story about Brady for this project. We can also do research. I've gotten involved in the genealogy world, and there's a lot of people in this town that do genealogy research. I'm sure they would love to be part of this, especially if their loved one is a veteran. My family, we have a lot of military, and they have researched tons of them. So I think it would be, this concept, although it may sound a little crazy, I think it'd be very unique for this town, but also something that I think a worthy project. I'll start rolling. Establish honor bricks program. I know it was talked about in other meetings with this project. Honor bricks would be honor and recognize the service of residents who served. Bricks could be sponsored in memory of a loved one who served, or could be purchased with a thank you message from the residents in the town. All proceeds go towards the park. Okay, so I feel the success of anything, you involve as many people who want to be involved as possible. So you engage residents from elementary school students to our seniors. The stronger the community involvement, the stronger the success. I have done that. I think on average, I'm averaging between 80 to 100 kids with me a year. Rather it be in the cemetery cleaning gravestones, or I don't know who knows this, many people don't. Newbury Elementary School sends between 30 to 50 colored wreaths with a little Christmas message through me to the Bedford VA hospice unit every December. I personally hand deliver them. It comes down from Newbury Elementary School. The kids love being in it, and the wreaths are absolutely, they're beautiful. They do a really good job with this. And I know, you help me with that. And I know they really enjoy doing that. It's a small thing, but has a big impact. I think the same with this program. There are ways you can incorporate elementary school kids in this, and our seniors, and everybody in the middle of it. I also have talked to you guys before about the Vietnam War. I paused it for a few reasons. My health is getting bad, but I also thought this would be a good tie-in for this project. It's currently in Pelham, New Hampshire, Memorial Day weekend. It draws a lot of people. That can sound scary, but you can look at it on the positive side. Why not do the Vietnam Wall here at Mentor Field and have an informational booth related to the projects and fundraising around the park. That doesn't need to be strictly supported by residents, right? Anybody who's a veteran will contribute. I contribute to things happening across the country just because I'm a veteran. I think you get the same support with that wall. Yes, it's a lot of work to bring that wall here, but the impact on that wall and the draw is huge. And it's a multiple day, it's 24 hours, it's a good event. Also, one of my favorite buildings in town is the Byfield Community Arts Center, which happens to be located directly across the street from where this park's gonna be at. Why are we using that as a fundraising spot or a meeting spot? I think we should. As Karen mentioned, she just did an amazing event there for Asian Orange in the burn pits. I'm trying to get something going for Veterans Day. Been talking to Karen about it. I'm looking at doing a free lunch there in November, just for veterans around Veterans Day. We could definitely utilize that spot more to do things for this project and tell them the site is literally across the street, right? So they can see it and support it. It's 2 birds with 1 stone. So, future day Memorial Day celebrations. I spent all week, and I'm sure Karen did too, doing parades and other events for Memorial Day. However, I didn't do anything in Newbury besides the flags went out, which I could not do because of my health. Upon completion of the Memorial Day remembrance, upon the completion of the park, Memorial Day remembrance gatherings could take place annually. For example, a small parade could be organized. A parade could start at Nob Hill and end at Central Street near or behind the Byfield Community Arts Center. A ceremony would follow the parade at the park. A ceremony could look something like an opening speaker, the national anthem, some remarks from Karen. The Newbury Boy Scouts could have the honor of raising the flag on the flagpole. Students could read patriotic poems and sing patriotic songs. A wreaths or a single wreath could be placed at the park by somebody. If the Reflections of Newbury book is to happen, a story or two could be read, rather by a student or by a resident. I think to reflect on a unique individual's story. Where are we? And in conclusion of the event, there could be a blessing of the wreath followed by a moment of silence, ending with taps. And I think you could even do that now if you wanted to, minus the park being completed. But I think that could be at the start of a Memorial Day project for Memorial Day. I would recommend forming a committee to kind of tackle that in its whole. I think a nice parade from Nob Hill down Main Street up Central would be nice. I know there's a resident in town who puts the flags up on the flagpole there by the post office, and I think it looks really nice for Memorial Day. So why not end there? So I mentioned about looking at other memorial projects. I've highlighted 2 locally, one's still ongoing, one just finished. So Salisbury just had their dedication ceremony last November, I believe. And that was strictly state funded. And it's one of my favorite ones locally. So here's what it looks like, if you haven't seen it. And they have the same idea that I thought about, breaking it down by wars and highlighting the veterans from the town who served in the war. Except for they go back to World War I would love to go back to the American Revolutionary War. We have a lot of Revolutionary War soldiers buried here in town. I can show you where they all are. We also have 2 unknown graves in town. I can show you where those are. We have a lot of history here. I think this would be a great way to showcase that history for the town to see. So this is the front, that's the back. The back could be utilized for the other wars if you place it right. And if you can't really see it, but you can see it's all broken down. It's not alphabetical order. They just added names. World War I, World War II, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and it stops there. So this is an article that came out last February that says the town received a $150,000 grant from the state to redesign the town common. And part of it was for the new Veteran Memorial, ADA accessible walkways, and upgrading the appearance. Let's see, and then you can see on the bottom paragraph, they reached out to the residents to get information about veterans for that. we could do the same thing. This is the dedication article that followed up last November, and it shows that $60,000 was used for the memorial site at Centerpiece. Sounds expensive, well it is, but they had state support, you know, and look at the impact and the visual of that site. I think a lot of people go there. Memorial Day, they did a big thing there over the weekend. I think it's well worth the investment. Kevin Hunt was there, and state reps was there, and Senator was there. So Haverhill actually has a project going on currently, very similar to what we're doing here in Byfield or Newbury. There was a monument that was by a bridge after Vietnam veterans. They just relocated it to another area in town and are raising money now for the next phase of that project. Sounds pretty similar here. We just moved the World War II Memorial Monument to a piece of land in town and are now raising money to the next phase of that project. So they're also having collections go through the city. We're having it go through the town. So you can see right here in the initial, this is in the very beginning, they raised some money. They did a ceremony last fall that I was at, about 125 people were there. They just moved the monument, they did a little dedication, and they announced the next phase. However, that simple phase cost them $15,000 just to move it, goods, services, and kind of do a little land design there. The next phase is now collecting donations. The Haverhill Rotary Club just gave them in April $2,000 to get started. That was at that point their biggest donation. Until recently, Senator Zaglio just got them $15,000 from the state. Again, I'm advocating that you guys consider going to the state to get funding. They will give it to you. This is now 2 local projects that just got funding from the state. This is currently their biggest donation so far. And I don't know what the overall project is gonna cost them, but I'm sure we could easily reach out to Haverhill. I know some people on the committee and they'll give us the information. It's not gonna be a problem. So that's all I got. Any questions? Sorry. It's a lot.
Don't be sorry. I thought you did well.
You did a good job.
Alright, so I can't be part of the state. I also have health issues going on, that I really gotta focus on. So you probably will see less of me. I told JR and Alicia this. So back in 2012, I got hit by a 300-pound explosive that rolled my vehicle. I have right side injuries that go from literally my knee up to my shoulder. And as of March, I am now deaf in my right ear. I've now lost all my hearing in my right ear. I've had balance issues I'm currently doing physical therapy for. So with that all said, my overall health is bad, really bad now. So I cannot jump deep in this like I would like to. But I did want to share with the board to kind of share my ideas with you guys.
So I have a question. Have you spoken to the previous World War II committee about this at all?
I haven't really, but I saw them on here, so see what wants to.
Okay. The charge that we gave to the previous committee, is that over now that it's been moved?
That's also what I wasn't sure about. Is you guys done with that phase? What's
I'm
the
not
next?
sure.
I haven't heard much from the committee. I couldn't tell you when it sunsets.
World War II committee?
Yeah.
We,
I'll get reappointed for another year.
we sent emails to the selectmen. I went down today to get sworn in, and she hasn't got notified by.
You haven't been reappointed yet, that's not gonna happen until June.
I
But we're
understand
still
that,
appointed as of
but
right
we
now.
have sent in our emails,
Your appointment doesn't
and the town clerk
expire
said they
until
have to
June
hear
30th.
from the selectmen first, before we can get reappointed.
Do you have any more to say, Johnny? You want to?
That's it. I wanted to be quick, but detailed, and share what I've been thinking about, since I've been sitting at home working on this.
Okay. Well, thank you for your expertise and your.
Thank you. I thought after Memorial Day was kind of an appropriate day to come in and talk about it.
Right.
Any questions?
Well, I think, for me, this is all, I wasn't expecting any of this. And
Sorry.
It's a lot to digest.
It's a lot.
I'd love to hear from the World War II committee, because I assume you guys are just hearing about it for the first time as well.
Yeah, we are.
And I think we'll have to come back to this probably
Discussion.
later, but, I think it's a great place to build from. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to address the board, if I may. As you may know, I'm a Navy veteran, Kirk Wolf from Washington Street. Yesterday was Memorial Day. A lot of the surrounding towns had ceremonies, parades, and get-togethers. This town had nothing. This town didn't even display the flag properly on Memorial Day. The way you display the flag on Memorial Day is that from sunrise to noontime, the flag is to be at half-staff to honor the deceased veterans. At noontime is to be raised full staff to honor the living veterans. This town has not done anything for veterans. The Boy Scouts and some of us, myself included, have put flags up on grave sites. And we decorate the graves in November, wreaths across America. No involvement from the selectmen. This town does nothing for veterans. So that's where I'm coming from. We're on the World War II committee, we're trying to get things going in the Veterans Park. But this town has to do more for veterans. There's a lot of us in this town. How many here are veterans? I know Marcy, look, just in this small group. But you don't do anything for us. You don't even know how to display the flag yesterday to honor veterans. That's a shame. Shameful. Thank you.
I just wanna try to keep this real simple. You know, as far as I know, we're still appointed until the end of June as a committee. I wanna focus just on the, World War II Memorial, where we are right now. You know, we've had, as far as maintaining, I just wanna focus on where we are, as far as maintaining the lawn, the highway department does a great job of that. As far as any tree removal, the tree one has done a great job. And as far as, the planting, Alicia is always on us to know when we're gonna start that. So we have brought several things to the town and talked a little bit with the Martha, and we've spent several hours with the different contractors. We have several bids, we've come up with a final cost. The cost would be somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000. We are hoping to do it with private donations. You know, we had spoken to Karen about grants, and she said she doesn't get involved with that at our meeting. Yes, we did. I brought the subject of money up to you at the meeting when you attended the meeting. So anyhow, we're not asking the town for any money. We've been to banks and the problem is it's coming in a little bit slower than what we originally expected. But we've been over there several times, we've been to different, that's just about where we are now. We have everything that we need except for the cash. So,
How can people make donations? How can people make donations?
they can make donations in care of the Little Love Memorial to the town of Newbury. Maybe we have a fund set up for that.
Yes.
Is that correct? So, we were looking for somebody to come out and give us $50,000, but that hasn't happened. So we've only added it a few $100 a time.
What's your balance in the account now?
Well, we just actually started to do some fundraising because we just got the final cost. So, you know, the pavers themselves, he spoke about names on the pavers. The pavers themselves would be almost $20,000.
Yeah.
The walkway, as you see, the walkway will be about another 10,000. We have a little memorial that we're gonna put to one side with just the names of the different service branches. We try to keep it simple.
Right.
Even simple costs money. We try to keep it simple and really good. And I think the town administrator had mentioned one time, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, they provide some kind of lighting for the flagpole. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't recall that discussion.
Is there power up there? Solar.
So it could be done. Who knows? But anyhow, that's pretty much where I'm not gonna get into it.
Well, there shouldn't be a contest.
Yeah.
Donnie's a veteran, and he is right up to speed with these celebrations, the monuments, parks like this, and he has a right to offer his input, just like anyone else in town has a right to offer their input on any other
As I
project.
just, maybe you didn't hear me.
I'm just saying it's not.
I'm just saying I'm not getting into a conflict. You hear what I said?
Right.
Okay.
But I feel like people are trying to take it personally, and that's not the case. It was a
We're not
man
trying to take
offering
anything
some
personal.
suggestions.
We just have a piece about the size of this room. You can have the whole other Veterans Park.
And I think that's Illinois Stockwell Road. That's what we had originally thought we were supposed to do, just move this memorial stone and to provide for that site. And we've had the discussion with the group that maybe at some point down the road, other people would want to do other displays for different groups. You mentioned Newbury, Donnie. Newbury has their memorial site for their World War II, but Byfield didn't. And we've had so many compliments on the moving of it. Some of us were kind of fearful about moving it, but since a lot of people have said that they can now see the memorial stone and they're discovering their relatives on it, so they've been quite pleased with it. We have the plan finally that we're forever, and we just want to get this completed. You mentioned the booklet, Donnie. We have someone working on a booklet to hand out that day. We're gathering information on as many veterans as we can. Nancy Burke is actually doing the booklet for us. And the post office has approached us. They would like to be involved with the dedication ceremony that we hope to do on Veterans Day because, but everything's depending on the money coming in. I think the post office wants to do some food part of it, then open up the post office to people to come in. I'll get more details on that. But we didn't intend to do the whole place. We just wanted to concentrate on this World War II memorial. And we too had, in fact, we talked about if we get it done this year, to have a Memorial Day, something or other down there. Maybe inviting the kids to come in and participate too. So those ideas we're working on. Karen is supposed to be giving us some information. I don't know if you've been able to get that on the veterans.
Yeah, I pulled all the DD 214s.
Those
Those
are
done,
okay.
oh yeah.
Okay. And
So I just wanted to we got a price on, as far as the town being involved, we got a price on moving the memorial. It was $9,000. The highway department moved it for free.
Right.
And they did a great job. You know, they did an excellent, so the town has been, again, I don't wanna, I just wanna focus on the World War II memorial. The town has been a great help. You know, the town helped us set up an account to put the money in. So I'm not trying to be in any controversy with anybody, we're just focusing on the project that our committee is responsible for. So that's it.
If people have input or wanna share ideas with your group, how should they go about it?
We haven't, we post the meetings.
Okay.
So, oh, did you wanna go, did you wanna speak first?
I'd like to say something when Fred's through.
You have a question?
Not a question, I have a comment.
Okay.
Do you want me to wait and hold my
Yeah,
thought
go
until
ahead.
he speaks?
Fred, I'll have a question for Bernie. So you guys have just kind of gotten some of the pricing for what your vision was, right?
What we showed the town.
So, you know, you're just getting it and you're gonna get it out there, Jen's gonna maybe be able to do something, I mean, it's early yet. I mean, some of these things take some time.
I understand that,
Yeah.
we thought we were gonna do it in 3 months.
Well.
You know, if we can get it done this year, it would be nothing
Yeah.
less than a miracle.
Sometimes projects drag on longer than you like.
We don't, it's good, things take time.
I just, since '09, I've been honoring the veterans every 2 years with roughly 100 antique vehicles, and not just in Mass. We travel all the way to California, all the way to Alaska, and we stop at many memorials and lay a wreath. And if you get down in the Midwest or down south, you see a town, not the size of Newbury, but the size of Byfield, and they have a memorial like you can't believe. And it's because Fred bought a stone, he bought a stone, she bought a stone, and they all went over and they did it. They didn't get some fancy developer or nothing like that, they just did it. And we all could learn from it. I'm not damning anybody about anything, it's just we all should reach in our back pocket and go do something about it, not talk about it.
Talking about things is helpful. I mean, we all need to communicate, rather than just doing things.
So here's my thoughts. I believe the World War II committee was started and tasked with moving that stone. Because where it was located, it was on private property and it was overgrown and it really belonged on town property.
The reason why they moved the monument is because they wanted it out of there.
Yeah, it needed to get
Nothing to do
moved.
with where it was setting or anything, it was because the owners of the condominium wanted it out of there.
Right, so it had to get moved.
Yes.
So you guys did a fabulous job, bringing attention to it and taking the bull by the horns and, you know, allowed the town to help move it. And, you know, you put a lot of thought into it. I don't think that we should wait for any donations, a significant amount of money to come in, because we could be waiting for a very long time. I was not aware, as I am now, by what Donnie said, that there's state money available for this.
But we would accept state money.
I think we need to go after some state money.
We would accept the grant. from the
I
state.
think that I wanna look into that and find out who we need to speak to get some money, to honor all the veterans, not just World War II veterans, but I think they all need to be honored.
Well, it is a veterans park. It just really had not been utilized, but it's always been a veterans park. It's not been a World War II veterans. It's not been a Civil War veterans. It's not been.
I didn't think it was ever a park, period, I just
Yeah,
thought it was a tract of
way
land
back.
that the town owned that is useful for.
It was actually named the American Legion Park by town meeting vote back in 1938 or something like that.
Okay, so it is, yeah, it was. So that's a good thing, because now we're in the right direction.
Grants are real good.
What makes me sad is that we do not, speaking to what he said, and I'm not gonna get upset over it, but it saddens me that we do not respect veterans on Memorial Day. I think that's simple. I don't know who would start that. I'm sorry that wasn't brought to my attention, and that I even didn't have the thought of it earlier, because shame on Newbury. And I wanna do something about it.
Maybe
Well, I
Don't
can
know
just
what?
share with you that when I was growing up in the small town of Byfield, every single year we had a veterans parade.
Yeah.
Remember that, everyone?
Yeah, and
We
we
did
used
it,
to,
But I'm trying to stay focused on the park.
Well, it's kind of all tied into the same thing.
It's all tied into the same thing, but it's none of my business.
Well, you live in town, it is.
But.
So, but I think we could
As far
separate
as
the
we
two.
know, we wanted to get this done as soon as possible, because I think we still have one living soldier that's on that plaque, it's 101 years old.
Wow.
So it can, at the Veterans Day thing.
He's 101.
101, we're running out of time, we only got another 10 years.
Can I just say on the, when we first started this, we asked about, state funding and grants, and we were advised not to do that because we would have to, pay union wage, and it would make our project too expensive. Is that true?
That's interesting.
That's a good question.
That's a real good question.
Everything has to go through procurement.
Right.
Wow.
There's no getting
If
around,
you do
skirting
take
around
state
the
money,
law,
But
like.
regardless
we
of,
have to do that.
well, they're not gonna take state funds, procurement laws apply.
Yeah, I think with the size of the project at this point, it's gonna be procurement laws, so you may as well get state money for it.
Right, worth it.
We'll take it on.
I think we should go after it.
Okay.
Well, that's just my opinion, I can't speak for the board.
I guess the only question I have with the other members of the board is, it seems like Donnie has a vision that is far expansive of what the World War II committee was charged with.
Right.
And I don't know if, as they're being renewed in June, and they still have work to do, if we want to look at their charge at the next meeting, think about what Donnie has presented, see if there is any overlap there, if we want two separate committees. Because I think we've been presented with two very different things, and we may wanna keep them very different, or we may wanna say, well, is there some overlap, is there some feed in from one to the next?
I think it would be nice to marry the two projects on somewhere along the line.
Well, that was kind of what I think was some of the discussion before, and Fred and the folks that are on that committee, does your vision include something larger that includes all veterans? I mean,
No.
you don't have a
Ours
problem, you don't have a
just-
problem with that.
A very simple World War II memorial.
Okay.
And anything else you wanna do with the Veterans Park is totally detached from our committee.
Good.
Okay?
And another thing we should think about is this World War II memorial is unique to Byfield, correct?
It's correct.
Yeah, so we have to think about the entire town and how to address that.
I also think that, what's come up with Craig's, conversation, which was good. I mean, my dad came out as a full bird in the Air Force, so I traveled around from Air Force Base to Air Force Base as a kid, so maybe Tracy and everyone involved in the selectmen, we have to set up a protocol for maybe moving forward for next Memorial Day, so we kind of set up a structure for displaying the flags correctly. We're a little disenfranchised now, and it's no excuse. I think when we had the green across the street from Town Hall, I'm not saying we did it right then either, but it probably just was, Joe, we didn't go after it when you were chair, when I was back then either. So it's something we ought to start, especially when we get back to Town Hall. But I don't think it's a problem to maybe display, our flag, our green in Old Town, correctly next year.
And have
Whatever
some
it
kind
takes.
of a
I mean, the fire
ceremony.
department, I'm sure can, if we ask them, can probably participate in that.
Right, and have some kind of this ceremony, something. Just
Well, I
nothing
mean,
massive, I don't wanna,
Certainly that can come from some people from the community that would like to step forward and facilitate that, but like Craig said, getting the flags done right, I think that's a good idea.
So, and, thanks to everyone for their input, and Donnie, thanks for coming in, for your input and ideas, and.
I meant no disrespect, I just wanted to share.
No, there's nothing, you have a right to be heard like everybody else.
I raise about $15,000 a year for wreaths in 3 months. It is possible to raise the money. It's a lot of work. So I think this could be done with the collection of funds.
Thank you. We have in correspondence, we have an email dated 5/7/19 from Sanford Farrier regarding beach cleanup.
Is this that one picture of the needle sticking out of the thing?
No.
There's many tabs here. Sam. All right. I just came from one of my typical morning outings, namely breakfast at Mad Martha's. This is from Sanford Fair, followed by a walk on the beach. Maybe it was because I just read a New York Times article about the deterioration of the planet and impending loss of species already on the endangered list. Who knows? But during my beach walk, I found myself counting the number of plastic bottles, plastic containers, or pieces thereof, etc., accumulated at the high water mark. In a span of about 50 feet, I counted 47 pieces, all sizes, shapes, and all emblematic of a situation needing attention, which got me to thinking, A, I'm retired with time available to volunteer. B, I'm always on the lookout for ways to get some exercise. C, I'm mindful of the importance of adults setting the best possible example for kids, especially these days. D, it would be easy for me to combine all of the above by carrying a sack and a trash picker up a handle with grabbers on the end for gathering the aforementioned plastic all for my beach walk. Questions. 1, I'm a former Newbury resident from Rolfs Lane, but now live on Ship Street, Newburyport. Am I eligible to join a volunteer group from Newbury whose goal is this Plum Island beach trash pickup? 2, if such a group exists, who should I contact about joining? 3, whether or not such a group exists, if I want to pursue the beach cleanup anyway, does the town of Newbury provide parking permits for such activities? Looking forward to your reply. Thanks, Sandy. So, having received that, I asked the question. It's not customary for the town to issue parking permits to out-of-town folks for activities like this. I don't know if that's the route we would want to discuss. Do we want to have a discussion about it at all? Because I hate to turn away volunteerism.
Yeah, when I read the letter, I was in the same sort of quandary. If this is somebody who's genuinely wants to help the town, how do we facilitate making that happen for him?
What's the scope, and I should know, and I don't know if anyone knows, but what's the scope of the beach management plan, Tracy? I don't know
Relative
either.
to beach
I mean,
cleanup.
Doug usually
I
kind
know
of,
Doug has to,
he's the guy that.
we have periodic groups
Right.
throughout the year who come in and do, different cleanups, and they do have to go through permitting
Right.
like everyone else, but.
Let's wait till Doug gets feeling better, he'll be back and we'll approach, beach management could be a viable tool. I mean, for those of you that didn't get the picture that Alicia was talking about, our highway department was painting some lines down there, and they took a walk down to the jetties, and, guys were using needles, and they were all over the place, and so they cleaned them up. And, happened to stick one in one of the upright pieces of wood just to show the plight, and took a picture of it, so. And I think Bob is still cleaning some of the beach down there with his beach sweeper, and the amount of needles that come off the beach that are in the flow out of the Parker River are amazing. So, I mean, it's just part
It's
of everyday
frightening.
life now in America. But, and I guess they say that if it's exposed to the sunlight and the environment and the water, that if you get stuck by it, I just, don't particularly wanna get stuck by one, so. Anything that probably emanates in that way, certainly that has to do with beach parking. When Doug gets feeling better, he has a broader understanding of the Plum Island Beach Management Plan. So.
We did have a conversation about it recently, and he said it's time for it to be rewritten.
Okay,
It's on
perfect,
the date, so.
perfect. So it's a perfect time for that email and other things.
So,
When he gets, any idea when he's back?
A couple of weeks.
So.
So my thought is if we're gonna go this route and have out-of-town people that are graciously enough willing to volunteer time, once we get that public safety facility up and running down there, eventually, we could have, temporary parking passes for those people who wanna volunteer.
It's one of the things that I wondered about, because we won't have a parking lot, but the temporary pass on the island, the question is, will people abuse it?
If they have to come in and get their pass, and then go collect, and then come back and show them what they collected when they return their baths, I don't think they're gonna be doing it.
Or it would have to be a one day.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Easier to organize days.
Right. The cleanup,
It's
cleanup
responsibility,
stuff
yeah.
they do on the Parker River, the Merrimack River, where they clean both sides of the river all the way up as
Oh,
far as
yeah, yeah.
April. They're one day events sometimes too. They actually have boats, help, support and hold by the ice, but they do a lot of cleanup, so. I think they do a one day event already on Plum Island, but let's look.
They do, and, they get, the parking lots get opened up for speech plantings and things like that as well, because I've volunteered for a number of those.
UNH and stuff.
Perhaps another idea is, I don't know if people set up a certain day, and of course it wouldn't make it easy for someone to do it on a whim, but if they call the PD, I don't wanna mire the police department down and more things to do, but maybe they could call the PD and just tell them I'm parked here and picking up trash today. But again, it might be tough to police.
They could talk to the department.
Yeah.
Pass it down that way.
I think from the chief about what we could all probably organize specific days, 3 or 4 days. A year like we normally do, because otherwise I don't know how you police it. And it would certainly have to be off-season.
So maybe it'll give us, if we table it till the next meeting, it'll give us all some time to.
And the beach
hash it
management
over.
plan's coming back through, so.
Yeah.
So we're gonna leave that.
Okay, we also got a letter from Mary Rimmer of Rimmer Environmental Consulting LLC regarding an expanded environmental notification form and waiver request. What they're doing is the ditches were largely formed in the marsh due to agricultural activity early in the 20th century. A much smaller part of the marsh is actually farmed now, so the trustees of reservations, what they're working on is healing some of these old ditches in the marsh, which actually now pool water, promote invasive species. So this was, if anyone was wondering what that was, it's basically a notification to the town that they're doing that. And the method consists of harvesting salt marsh hay, binding it together with a twine and biodegradable twine in a braided fashion, and a wooden stake in it to the bottom of the marsh. And as the tide goes in and out, it slowly collects a little bit of sediment. And when the bottom of the ditch reaches to the point where the plants in it get about 6 hours of sunlight per day, then that native marsh grass takes hold again. Because I have a background in farming, and my family goes back quite a ways farming. And one thing we learned many years ago, even before I was around, was if you make a ditch in a wet field, a lot of times you're creating an even worse problem. A lot of these floodplains and things, and even the Great Marsh, the tide comes in, and nature intended for the tide to go out. When you create a ditch, you create a bathtub, and that tide never goes out, and then the vegetation changes on you to something you don't want. So, while these things did serve a purpose at one time, and I think technology and science, obviously wasn't advanced at that time, I think slowly healing up some of these marsh ditches is a wise thing. And that's coming from somebody involved in agriculture.
That wasn't clear to me from their letter if we needed to issue anything to them, but I think.
It's a notification, be a trustee's property, it was just a notification, but I wanted to share with.
They're also going for,
Permits.
they're going for a waiver from a MEPA permit and other environmental impact report, because if you had to do some of that stuff, it would be $100,000 in 5 years, so.
Yeah.
And that's because they're actually filling a ditch, which is filling the marsh, and it could trigger a MEPA permit, but some of that stuff would need relief. In your packet, if you actually look under that project alternatives, and I'll read it really quick too, because this is the stuff that I'm involved in the marsh. I'm actually involved in one of the first things, but this really explains what they're doing. There are other techniques of salt marsh restoration that are currently or have been recently attempted at sites along the East Coast. Some of the thin layer deposition, which my team is involved in which the Corps of Engineers is gonna do dredging of rivers and other things, and they're talking about being able to establish what is the right layer to spread out the deposition from the dredging on top of the marsh to encourage growth up through it. Because what's happening in our marshes, obviously, is we're losing elevation with sea level rise. We were lucky here in colonial times, we got a lot of sediment out in our marshes, which they say created a bank, but we're eventually gonna have low marsh throughout our whole marsh, which is a lagoon ultimately. So they're talking about, maybe dredge material. They're also talking, there were things like Ormworm where they actually plugged these ditches like they're doing now, but they did it with plywood. And it happened so quickly, everything went anoxic, everything just turned so that nothing could grow. It took the oxygen away because it flooded it. And that's probably one of the things that they're trying to rectify here is anytime you have what's called the sequestered water up in the marsh now, where you see on Low Street and all these other places when, you know, when you cross the marsh, that's the kind of stuff that creates the environment where there's no oxygen and kills the grass. So they're trying this, they're going after the permits, and like they say, it is easily reversible. Meaning that if it doesn't work, they can restore the ditch. So it's just scientific observation on how we're gonna keep up, how our marshes, with our help, are gonna keep up with sea level rise.
I think we should send a letter of support, because I think the project's really well thought out and could potentially do a lot of good, so.
I think that's a good idea too.
So I move that we send a letter of support for this project.
Second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, and we have a letter from 5/14/19 from Jim Moran. Dear Mr. Colby, the site plan for the new police station on Morgan Avenue is at hand, and there is only one bite at this apple. The site plan is one of critical thinking and will position the building for the next 100 years. The building committee has done a great job in advancing the project to date, but I believe the location of the police station would be considerably more beneficial to the town if moved to the north end of the lot, rotated 90 degrees in an east-west longitudinal orientation, with the backside of the police station aligned approximately with the backside of the existing fire station. My reasoning for this location and orientation is that it would set the building further away from Morgan Ave for pleasing aesthetics and blending into the neighborhood, maximize the use of the open area to the south by allowing continuity of parking and staging between the police station and fire station, make the building south-facing for best year-round exposure, make snow removal more efficient and minimize snow and icing conditions, allow for more efficient use of solar panels, allow straight-in driving into the two sally ports. Sally ports would either be rotated 90 degrees from their present orientation or left as is with access from the west side. Or 7, allow straight-in driving from the parking at the police station. The police station is a big building in size and volume. The ridge line will be 43 feet above finished grade. The current proposed location of the building will tower over the existing fire station, be an eyesore in the neighborhood, look out of place, and be of questionable aesthetic value. A timely decision on this matter is critical to the engineering, procurement, and construction. Sincerely, Jim Moran. So,
Has the municipal building committee commented on that?
yes, that, I know they have been communicating back and forth with Mr. Moran. Yeah, any meeting updates?
I don't remember if I've informed the group that we met with Laura Hanlon, but we have looked at some of the sightlines from her house as concerns the driving range. There have also been a few issues at the driving range since the last meeting. They've been tracking some dirt into the road. They worked late one day. There was a discrepancy about reporting. It seems that Sam gave Eric permission to do lawn care, such as mowing the grass and weed whacking on the weekends, as any property owner can do. And he reported to the Carbones that he had permission to work late, and so that will have to be fleshed out at the meeting on the 5th. But I just wanted to update you guys that while the daily briefings have been happening, there have been some ruffles in the clear water that had been existing previously.
Yeah, like I said, I was coming to the library, I think it was last Thursday, and I saw there was action. I was at the meeting when you said it had to stop at 5, so I pulled into the Carbones, and it's like it wasn't communicated to them that they got the permission. Okay, and since I know nothing, I couldn't say anything one way or the other. But they were very agitated.
Yeah,
Right.
they do not have permission to be working past 5.
Oh, we're going to discuss this.
Yeah.
Can we wait to discuss this at the public hearing?
Yeah.
I'm just giving an update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other meeting updates? All right, do we have any minutes? Okay.
Motion to approve the April 23rd, 2019 minutes.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have warrants?
Motion to approve May 8th, 2019 minutes.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have warrants?
Motion to sign warrants.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And, before we adjourn, I just want to thank the board for the support of my chairmanship. It's been an interesting trek. Newbury's in an interesting time right now. And, I'm glad to help navigate us through the next year of it.
Okay, one
And,
question.
Sure.
Liaisons, do you guys still do liaisons to the committees?
Oh, I mean, we do, that's a good.
Is that something that's gone by the boards? I mean,
Well, when we appoint,
Right,
when we
okay.
appoint, we will appoint a liaison in June, right?
To what?
so, I mean, I'm talking about committees in general. Before the, you are? All right, okay.
No, what are you talking about, what kind of a
Like
committee?
I said, if there was, they would put somebody in charge for the fire department, they would put somebody in charge, just to like, selectmen, that would be the lead selectman going that way.
Oh, no, I thought you meant like a
No, no, no.
liaison to another, like I'm the liaison to the rec committee or.
Right, well, even
That
that,
kind of
like that,
thing.
yeah, that same thing
Those
too.
appointments come like when we appoint in June.
Oh, okay, just didn't know.
But you won't be a liaison to the fire department,
Right.
because that's over here at the town.
Right, okay, right, that's what I'm learning.
So, and, before we adjourn, I just wanna say, I try to be as much of a moderator as I can. We're a board of five, so at times I have to make a motion or make a decision, but you have my word, I'll always hear you out. And especially new, since we have, we haven't worked together much yet, but, I'll always hear you out. If you guys want things you want on the agenda, you're just gonna let me know. I don't know unless I know. So.
And I wanna reiterate the fact that I am proud of the direction that we're taking in town. I think we're going in the right direction, and for us to continue moving.
Okay.
It has been easy.
It's not been easy. But, you took the words out of my mouth. Right, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Good night,